All right, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in the sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect His message. I'm out. All right, welcome everybody. Shalom to you. Peace, peace. Come on in. Hopefully, you all are doing well. Some of you coming over from early rise Bible study session. Thanks for coming in. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate you. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste, osaya anakitawaya. I see you. Habari gani, kamsa, kamsamida, manut, akwa aba, itisen, jambu, mimi ni Kofi, nina franco kutana na wewe, bakurtav, barakalad sham yahava, shalom, bat, at ban, at Yasrael, at Zion. And at Kofi, Kohelet of Servants of Christ, Mashalam Chi, Amat, Allah at Sham Yahava. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thank you for spending some time with me today. We appreciate you. And a little bit of rain and stuff, whatever, but that's not going to stop us. And we're going to make sure that we get into a word. We got a word for you from the Most High. To everybody, thank you for being on. We give all honor and praise again to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We're thankful and grateful for everybody being with us and being on today. Just found out a couple things or whatever. Continue to keep people in prayer. Sister Toya and her family, Minister Kevin and his family, Sister Austral and her family, and many, many more. Keep each other in prayer, of course. Brother Shabbos and his family, a lot of things going on. Asking that we keep Minister Sharon lifted up in prayer, her and her family lifted up, of course, and the people that she's working with and working under and all that great stuff. But thank you guys for being on again. We appreciate you. And we're going to go ahead and get into this word today. If it's your first time being with us, hopefully it's one time of many, but if it's your first time, we are on every rise at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. We're on every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, except for Wednesdays, which is my day off, although we have plenty of people that step in not only on Wednesday, but many other days to be able to accommodate in many different ways, including even if you need help in person. This is not just virtual for us, but it is reality. So we thank you guys for being on today. Let's say hello, everybody, and let's get right into this. How you doing, Sister Nadine? How you doing, Juanetta? How you doing, Sister Nadine? How are you doing, Adri, Miss Wool, Romac, Minister Tamara? If I miss your name, charge it to my head, not to my heart, by the way. How you doing, Molly? Everybody who's on, Sister Stella, hello, hello. DB, how are you doing? We appreciate everybody. Thanks for being with us today and everybody who's coming on all platforms. Matter of fact, as I'm doing this, I just realized, let me make sure that we got Facebook up and with us today. Amen. Let's see. Amen. Alrighty. Let's see. All right. So today we're going to talk about. I don't want to. I can't officially label this, especially on. I can't officially label this what the title actually is, even though you'll hear me mention what the name of the title actually is, because just in case somebody comes on and tries to say that we're trying to say something or do something that's wrong, right? We got to be careful about how we're perceived on social media sometimes. However, today, let's go with the title or the theme, if you will. You come with a warning. All right? You come with a warning. You come with what? You come with a warning. You are considered to be dangerous. You come with a warning. And this is why a lot of things you're going through, you go through. How you doing, Sister Night? I missed somebody else. I think I saw somebody else come on. Darius, thank you for being on. Right? How you doing, Nicole? You come with a warning. Right? You come with a warning. You're not And this is when you step in the room, you are considered to be dangerous. When you come with a thought process that you have, when you come with the kingdom, you are dangerous to the system that you come into, right? If you come into a system that's anti-kingdom, that's anti-truth, that's anti-peace, that's anti-hate, then you are dangerous to the system that you come inside of. How you doing, Royal? How you doing, Wax Poetic? If I come into something that is, and I'm the antithesis of it, right? Then I'm an antagonist, even if I don't mean to be, right? If I don't eat pork, and every time I'm invited to something, everybody's always going to have pork. Eventually, they get tired of inviting me. Why? How you doing, MIT Tracy? They're not tired of inviting me because I'm necessarily doing anything wrong, right? They're tired of inviting me because we don't want to change the whole thing. Well, you don't have to. I mean, I can bring my own food, but because of who I am, right, I already show up as the antagonist because I'm somebody that's a reminder of something that's anti what somebody believes. How you doing, Art? How you doing, Sister Deja? Right? So I have to be careful and stop thinking, stop having this false thought process even that says that I am accepted, right? And I know this is what they try to teach in school. This is what they try to tell us about ourselves. They try to say, oh, yeah, everybody's accepted. They're trying to teach everybody's accept everything, accept everything. Everybody's a child of God. Everybody's this, but you don't find any scripture for that, right? If you're in the truth, you're in the truth. If you're not, you're not. Everybody's accepted no matter what they look like. But then all of a sudden our hair shows up at the wrestling contest. And now if you want to wrestle, you got to cut your hair. Or if you want to play soccer, you got to get rid of your hairstyle. Or if you want to, make it higher in the corporate ladder, you can maybe keep your hair, but you have to do some things that make it very acceptable, right? How you doing, Ryan? Thanks for being on. So we have to admit. How you doing? She travels. How you doing, King? We have to admit. How you doing, Sister Latoya? We have to admit, and we have to realize that we have to comprehend that we are a danger. Matter of fact, within our own community, we are a danger. May I give something to you, brothers and sisters? This is going to be something that focuses on the sisters, but just for all of us. When I see a lot of our sisters, and I'm talking specifically in our diaspora right now, although it can, obviously leak into other diasporas to a certain degree. How you doing, Queen? I know that when I'm dealing with our sisters, I can hear something that comes in that's a danger to a certain sensibility that I have. Now, somebody says, oh, where is he going? This sounds patriarchy and stuff like that. Look, my patriarchs are not like your patriarchs. My patriarchs are not the same ones that you look at as your father, right? However, just hang in there with me a little bit on this. There's a sister that comes in to our community and stuff that sounds dangerous. You know why? Because she hasn't been protected. How you doing, Wayne? Thanks for being part of the community. Appreciate you. How you doing, Charles? And if your wife is listening as well, if your daughter's floating around somewhere as well, how are you doing? Right? When the sister shows up, she's dangerous because she doesn't have time anymore for play. Oh, okay. From Verde Reservation. All right. Well, thank you for being on. Appreciate you. Right. And thanks for being part of the community. When the sister shows up, when the indigenous woman even shows up, she doesn't have time for certain things anymore, and she's dangerous, so to speak, because she's showing up with something that's like she's showing up and she doesn't have time for lack of accountability. How you doing, Sister Sherry? She doesn't have time for frustration. She doesn't have time to not be protected. She doesn't have time to hear you keep talking about this is what we're going to do as men, or this is what women need to do, and blah, blah, but there's no sensibility as far as her feelings or how she wants, and everybody telling her it's facts over feelings, even though her feelings are based off of facts, right? Like she comes in, and so you automatically go, man, I can't deal with this, deal with that. But I'm here to tell you, if you're going to take care of this sister, guess what you're going to have to deal with? You're going to have to deal with helping her to heal and become whole. And that's dangerous for a lot of people. There's a danger, right? If I'm dealing with somebody and I'm supposed to help her and show masculinity, but everything she's seen is toxic and never masculinity, then she seems like she's dangerous. She comes with a warning sign. And if you're going to deal with that, you're going to have to help her to heal and to be whole and to have an opportunity to become the best version of herself before we get into these long, meaningful relationships. How you doing, Brother Ali? Right? You're going to have to deal with where she's coming from. And so most of the labels and the adjectives that you hear people say, whether it be the Afrocentric brother, the brother that wants 7 to 1, the red pill brother, the patriarch, whatever, a lot of the descriptions of our sisters that we get are because we're not willing to deal with the things that she comes with, right? She's dangerous, and then mess around and let her become armed and dangerous. I'm not just talking about with a physical weapon. How you doing, Sister Gertrude? How you doing, Slater? Right? I'm not just talking about with a physical weapon. How you doing, Robin? I'm talking about let her come around and she's armed with actual facts. She's armed with scripture. She's armed with belief system. She's armed with courage. She's armed with actual feminine divinity. And let her come across. And all of a sudden we start saying, oh, I can't deal with this. This is this. And these women are this. And she's expecting me. Let her come armed with accountability. I hold you accountable for this, that, whatever. How you doing, Anjanette? Right? And we can't take it. But she hasn't come with anything wrong. She's come with accountability. Now, if she's come with some wrong things that are helping her to decide what she's going to hold people accountable with and for. How you doing, Sister Mary? Auntie Marion, thanks for being on. Hopefully we'll be able to reach out and talk today. How you doing, Minister Samay Lorraine? She might have some things she needs to heal from, sure. And there might be some things she's putting on you that maybe she shouldn't put on you. And maybe she doesn't know what it is to communicate with an actual husband, actual man. Hey, babe, how you doing? My wife is on The Honorable Maya. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree, right? And how you doing? Mayam. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but thanks for being on. Grand Rising. So she's coming with stuff, right? And we're not willing to deal with what she comes in with. She has a mindset, and we're not willing to see her mindset. She's dealing with a world that is anti her feminine value. So she's supposed to be more, watch this, like in the word, it tells you that a wife, right? A virtuous woman, a wife, is more precious than rupees. You cannot put a price on her, right? We have a bounty mindset where we put a price on people's heads to be able to capture them or to get them, dead or alive, and be able to present them to everybody else and say, see, this is what I captured, pay me so I can go ahead and capture the next one. But see, we don't put a bounty on her head, because you can't even put a bounty on a wife's head. Why? Because a wife is more precious than rupees. Whether we're talking about a spiritual wife married to the Most High, whether we're talking about a physical wife married to a husband, right? She is more precious than rupees. But we have a mindset of, I'm going to put this stuff on her. See, and so what happens if she's dangerous because she actually represents what Yah wants, and then on top of that, she's armed with who Yah is and who Yah is inside of her, and the word of Yah that he's given to her. And now all of a sudden she becomes something that for many of you is dangerous. But you must recognize, sisters, that if this is how you were treated, you must realize if this is who you're even going to be and therefore become. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? You must recognize, sisters and brothers, if you're dealing with these sisters, you must recognize that she comes with a warning sign. She comes with a warning sign. She's not just like everybody else. You can't treat her just like everybody else. She's not educated on the level that everybody else is. Her thought process is not like everybody else's. Her mindset is not like everybody else's. Her heart's desire is not like everybody else's. Matter of fact, how you doing, Sister Casey? If we want to get even more into it and more technical, not only is it not like everybody else's, but it's not even like hers used to be. Uh-oh. Yes, her mindset has changed from maybe what you thought every Black woman was like to what every Black man needs. Mm. Mm. And it's hard to deal with a dangerous woman who's armed with the word, because now she comes with a warning sign. But you got to ask yourself, are you willing to heed the warning? right? This is not alcohol, but let's just say this was an alcoholic beverage, right? There's certain things that you see on there that are supposed to be warnings, right? That say that not everybody can handle this. How you doing, Forever Young? Right? If this is alcohol, not everybody can handle it. How you doing, Sister Tori? So if you show up, if a child shows up to a counter and the child wants to buy some gum at the grocery store, the child can show up at the grocery store and buy gum all day, every day. How you doing, Sister Deborah? However, if a child shows up to the grocery store and they've got a 6-pack of wine coolers, the store is going to say, What is that?" You show up to the corner store and the child has a bag of Skittles. You can pay for the bag of Skittles as a child, but when it's time for you to get some MD 2020 or some Steel Reserve, right? Tear your guts out. But some Steel Reserve, they're gonna say, "Ooh, that's." I don't know if you're supposed. Now, some places, because they don't heed warnings or they just want money no matter what, and they know that a bunch of children are buying underage, they go ahead and let that go, right? But a responsible store, especially if that store wants to stay open for a long period of time. And thank you for the love, appreciate it. How you doing, Blue Shush, right? A responsible store says, "Wait a minute, we know our product and we see the product itself, even if it doesn't have a big sign that says warning, 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 the product itself, when I scan the product, even if for some reason I missed that it was an alcoholic beverage, when I scan the product, there's a code that comes with that product. And the code pops up automatic to say, hey, somebody needs to be carded. And so even though you could buy other things in here because you can handle eating them, right? Sugar might not be the best thing, but hey, you could handle the gum, right? Even though we should probably treat some of the sugar like we treat the alcohol, nevertheless, right? But if the child, if the immature one, how you doing, me forever? If the immature one wants to get the gum, fine. They can go ahead and get the gum all day. But when you scan it and it says it's alcoholic and I need to card you, it's because I need to see if your body is mature enough to be able to handle it. Not just your body, but your brain, right? Not just your brain, but your kidneys. Not just your kidneys, but your urethra, right? Like it's going to affect all parts of your body. It might affect your heart, right? It's going to do some things to your body that you're not prepared for, especially depending on how much percentage of it is alcohol, right? The alcohol content. So, how you doing, Renaissance? So when we are talking about this, you come with a warning. Well, if the woman comes with a warning, she can be dangerous to the person who's not mature enough or perfected enough or loving enough. How you doing, Jen? To handle her. So rather than deal with that, right? Try to buy something. Somebody would say you can't handle that. See, you come with a warning. There's a brother who's been through bad relationship after bad relationship himself, and he's tried to be better, and he's learned how to be greater, and he shows respect, and he does all these different things, and he's been burned, right? He's had people mismanage his money. He's had people tell him and call him things that he's not, right? He's had people accuse him of things that he hasn't been accused of. He might have served time for something that he didn't do. He's had people say he's a deadbeat father, even if he takes care of his children as much as he's allowed to, right? And so when you get with that brother, you might have to recognize that he comes with a warning. Are you ready to handle the warning? Will you heed the warning? Don't just get with a husband. See, now I have to be careful with this because when we're talking about this type of relationship, I have to be careful with this because when I'm talking about this type of relationship, I'm talking about a husband. See, a man is one thing. Every husband is a male. Every man is a husband, right? In our culture, right? This is for educational purposes only. In our culture, let me make that clear, right? Because in your culture, you might do something else. In our culture, every male becomes a man. Every male should be trained before marriage to be a husband. Every male before marriage and before having children should be trained to be a father and should be qualified by the community to be so that when he finds a wife who's qualified to be a adult woman, a wife and a mother, he finds an exceptionally constitutional thing, right? And somebody who helps him to obtain favor from the Most High God, right? So if you're not ready for that, then put it down. Leave it at the store. Leave it where you found it. Leave him where you found him. Don't bring him on this journey, right? And a lot of us have people who have brought us on this journey to where they keep trying to drink from you, or they keep trying to purchase you. And because of the community that you're in, because of the lifestyle that you live, because of the people that you hang out with, you don't people don't tell you about the warning signs. They don't say, hey, that sister over there is righteous, you might not want to get with her. People just say, hey man, if you can get with her, I tried to get with her, I couldn't get with her, man, more props to you. And they give you a fist bump, and people are out here acting like that's something that's awesome, right? And that's not what this is. That person is has some things, and you've been dealing with some family. See, this is why you might be dealing with some separation anxiety, but at the end of the day, you're gonna have to separate. I didn't say segregate. I said you might be dealing with some separation anxiety. I've left the system alone. I've left some of those friends alone, and it's messing with me. And I feel like all this stuff. But see, one of the things that I need you to recognize is not everybody can handle you. You come with a warning. How you doing, WCP? What did we say earlier last week? Bold statement. I have overcome the world. And if the world hated me, then they're going to hate you. Not everybody's going to handle you. As much as I wish this wasn't the case, how you doing, Sister Melissa? As much as I wish this wasn't the case, when I walk into certain places, behaviors change. I don't ask people to stop cussing. I'm not saying that I'm not appreciative when people don't stop cursing, but I don't stop people to stop. I don't ask, hey, everybody stop using swear words. However, when I walk into a place and people know who I am and they know what I stand for, right? And they see we put Messiah first. How you doing, Black Steel? And they say our lifestyle is different. They say they see we actually have a genuine love towards everywhere. When I show up, people stop just because I've shown up on the scene, right? Because of even how I've decided to live in my culture, no matter where I am in the world. Yeah, Jakey. Yeah, everywhere you go, the energy changes, right? And because of that, because of who I am, I can't help it that people, if I go somewhere, because of just the way I'm dressed, people change. Matter of fact, some people, because they're not mature enough to handle my culture and have already made assumptions about me, they already start going into. You see it all the time on these live sessions. Somebody comes on up. See, that's the problem. Somebody said that yesterday, right? That's the problem with you people. You people this and you people that. And I was like, sir, I haven't talked about anything as far as race. Like we hadn't even gotten there. We eventually had some stuff that popped up, but that's not even my concern, right? Or somebody who says, see, you guys always want to take and take and take and take. Look, I believe that the same way the slave masters got reparations, that the people who the slave masters did dirty deserve reparations. But at the end of the day, I'm not concerned about you giving me anything, because you prove me that everything that you give me is something that actually messes my community up. So I'm all right with you not having to give me a thing, because you can't handle this, right? You're sitting up there talking about you want to deal with me, but you're not mature enough yet. You're trying to buy. You're the 7-year-old, or you're the 17-year-old trying to buy alcohol, and then gets mad when somebody cards you and says, "Can you handle this?" Uh-oh. See, I come with a warning, and I deal with a lot of 17-year-old mentalities when it comes to any conversation. I tell brothers, hey, treat a wife like a wife. And brothers get upset and get angry and call me a simp. You're a 17-year-old who wants to deal with a mature beverage, so to speak, a mature woman, but you can't handle her. That's what you are. You're not even old enough to smoke a cigarette. How in the world are you going to be old enough to drink alcohol? You're not old enough to handle dating, which is not even in your Bible. Read your Bible, it'll bless you. It's not even in your Bible. How you doing, Raphael? Thanks for being on. You can't even handle the dating scene. You can't even handle respecting your mother. You cannot even handle making sure that your speech patterns are ones that are not always speaking of curses, but are speaking of something that brings people together. You cannot even handle that, but you're trying to handle the wife. You can't handle that, but you're trying to handle the husband. You cannot handle that, but you're talking about what spiritual guidance. It's always amazing. There are so many spiritual guides that curse everybody out when they don't get what they want. Where does that work? And I'm not just talking about followers of the way, Israelites, Christians, Muslim. I'm talking about any spiritual guide. There's so many spiritual guides out there who speak curses over people and are trying to tell us how to live our lives. Yeah, we got to do work within. Yeah, we have a problem. You cannot handle it. These people come with warning signs. Warning, you might not be able to handle it. See, everywhere that I go, do you think I just go? Look, watch this. Everywhere that you go, do you think that you go somewhere and people just don't like you? Or because they realize there's something more powerful about you? You are dangerous. Now, here's the problem. You're dangerous because your very presence reminds people that the system that they are in does not make sense. Exactly. Indigenous people, right? Like I'm not, I guess, what you would call full blood. I don't really do the blood quantum thing, but I guess you wouldn't call me full blood, but I'm Anakitawaya, or you might say even Cherokee. I definitely have some Taino, and I'm married more so into Choctaw, Seminole, Foot Creek, etc. Right? But also I'm Shwe, I'm Ashanti, I'm Igbo, right? You hope yeah, hope there's some that are Wampanoag, Haudenosaunee, Khalifa, Navajo. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? And when you show up, your very presence is a reminder to people that you are dangerous. Why? Because the system is built on you. But watch this: the system is built on you being subservient in every area. And the second that you say, "I deserve freedom," is the second that the system is in danger. You hear what I'm saying? Every time, every specific situation that you show up in, your presence alone comes with a warning sign. How you doing, Sister Shima? Every situation you're in, your presence alone comes with a warning. Not some situations, every situation comes with a warning because of who you are, who you were created to be, what you bring, and your sensibilities. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. You hear what I'm saying? Every single time. I want you to get this. Not sometimes. How you doing, Sunny Day? Every time. Salah. Watch this. Every time that a bunch of sisters don't act right, and they always talking about men ain't this, men ain't that, and they're not being real true mothers to their children and doing all these things, and you show up in the group, why would you be accepted with grace and civility if you are a danger? Because your presence now has a sense of accountability. If you are dealing with men who are always talking bad about women, who say women ain't this, women ain't that, who will tell you if a girl ain't got a ring on her finger, she ain't married, and all this stuff like that, right? Will not respect them. And all of a sudden you show up and they say, yeah, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? That one, she a baddie right there, this, that, whatever. What you think about it? And you say, bro, I'm married. I can't even, I mean, I guess she look nice and everything, but I mean, that's not, I have no dealings with that. There's nothing I can do with that. And even if I was single, I don't even know if she's a wife. See, in my culture, she got to be a wife before I even approach her. So I would be more concerned about that, even if she looked nice, even if she wearing tight stuff. I mean, and I mean, this is the way the world is set up, right? You walking around and it's scattered, you know what, everywhere. Thank you, Hawk. Appreciate it. Right? Yeah, this lawlessness. It's scattered stuff everywhere. Brothers got their butts hanging out, and if they got their butts hanging out, the way that they sag the stuff for real. Now you see the underwear in the front and the back. Sisters are walking around, and there's many things that we want to now deem today to be yoga pants and all this stuff, and everybody's looking for something that's not permanent, that's not eternal, something that's not going to last. Everybody likes the tree, or no, everybody likes the fruit. Nobody cares that fruit has seed to carry on legacy, and nobody really cares about the tree or what that tree is rooted in. Let me just eat the fruit. Let me just eat the fruit. Let it just spread their legs. Let them just let them just go ahead. Let me see what he got working on with them gray sweatpants. Our mindset is not on what's eternal. How you doing, Dimples? Right? When they sell you product, thanks for the love. When they sell you product online, when they sell you jewelry, when they sell you medicine, when they sell you food, sex sells. There's even a perverted nature. We talked about this in sports. If you grew up on wrestling, if you're watching wrestling still to this day, you got to watch people that's basically buck naked. That's part of the intrigue, is looking at their bodies. It's a very Greco-Roman mindset, right? A Colosseum type mindset, right? If you're gonna look at people who play basketball, you're gonna be seeing a lot of their bodies and stuff like that, and how lengthy and all the stuff that they are, and they flexing the muscles, and they got to do this and do that or whatever. You're gonna see those things. If you're watching women play tennis, the skirts have to be extremely short, and people love to hear the women make loud noises when they're grunting or whatever to be able to hit the tennis ball back and forth. There's plenty of videos where people just make fun of that, right? People don't have the right mindset. If it's not something that's temporary, a temporary fix, a temporary pleasure, then a lot of people don't think it's worthy of them giving time to it. And we have a lot of people who don't realize that but you don't realize that there are some of us who have decided to live outside of the temporary and live for something that has to be at least till death do us part, or has to be eternal in principle, or has to be something that is before we were even born, a standard. See, where I'm not worried about the house that you built today. See, I come from a house that was built thousands of years ago. See, my clothing identifies for me as something that was thousands of years ago. I'm problematic. I'm dangerous, because see, the person who thinks that this new thing is something doesn't realize that there was something you should have knew. I don't know if you got it. There's an NEW and a KNEW. Let me say it again. How you doing, Earth Angel? Right? People are trying to get this new thing all the time, but nobody cares about this thing they should have knew. The word know, K-N-O-W, it means to be intimate with. And how do you become intimate with your eternal self if you don't know who you are? See, some of you come with warning signs. You are dangerous because you don't know. You are not aware of who you are. And so since you have no awareness of, you are not aware of it, you are aware, you are the opposite of aware. Since you are not realize that you have an original self, you have not gone through something called salvation. The word salvation, by the way, doesn't mean what you think it means. And let's make it, instead of making it so mystical, let's make it practical. The word salvation is Tion. That makes it a noun, a person, place, or thing. And the words at the beginning of it is salvage. It's actually salvageation, if you will, but it's a compound word of sorts. The suffix tells you it's about a person, a place, or a thing. And so now what am I salvaging? The person, the place, or the thing. I've got to salvage myself. Salvage means to be brought back to its original intent. See, many of us have never even experienced even partially who we originally were. But you're trying to get into marriages that are supposed to deal with death do you part. But how do you have an eternal type of marriage, or at least a lifetime of marriage, and you don't even know who you were before marriage? Matter of fact, do you know who you were before you were born? Are you aware of who you were before you were born? This is why in law, it doesn't matter where you come from, it matters who you come from. If you haven't been paying attention, France has been having a lot of riots, right? I wasn't really paying attention, found out, but I already knew what was kind of going on. See, and people go up there having riots, and and for them, this is a huge deal. In America, this is nothing. But for them, they're like, well, 3 children or three people have been shot and killed this year. Or what it was, it 3 in the beginning of the year, or 17 overall, something like that. But let's just be nice. They say 3 people have been killed this year. Oh, excuse me, off this year, unalive this year by police officer and police brutality. So those 3 have been, and so they're having riots in the streets. They are having riots in the streets. They are having riots in the streets, and buildings are being razed to the ground. Now, when you did it, it was all over the place. When France does it, they say we got to listen to the people. But it's because they're running out of people. See, if you don't know what the danger is, what happened in France, see, you must recognize in France has basically been a third world country forever. You in your mind only think about Paris and think about the Eiffel Tower. How you doing, Cricket? How you doing, Prince? And so in your mind, right, that's all you think about. But France is bigger than that. And people in Paris, in Paris, they don't care or like people outside of Paris. They call them country bumpkins. Matter of fact, if you want to know where the IQ test comes from and why the dangers of it and how it got into race and stuff, it actually started in France, where they came up with something specific to say everybody that they thought spoke the language best and all that was smarter, and everybody else who didn't, they would test them out of positions. And this comes from a mindset of where, you know, you're dealing with stuff that was dealing with the Roman Catholic Church, slave trade, all types of stuff, right? And even look at what's going on in Louisiana. Louisiana is a direct correlation to how people in France, right? What is it? Blanc Grand and Blanc Petit, or the big whites and the little whites, and how they had like 40 to 400, depending on what colony you were in, 40 to 400 different color schemes that they had, or colors that they said, if you're this color, this is where you belong in society, right? Like a lot of people don't know this, right? So that's why Louisiana is as mixed and hateful within and all this stuff as it is. New Orleans, especially, is because of all those things that came on. So you had indigenous people that were there, sure. You had Africans that were brought over. You had people that were mixed and stuff. You had big mixed people that had, that were lighter skinned and so they could pass, but they had Negroid features, right? You had different things or whatever. You had, you might be ebony, you might be mahogany, you might be this, you might be that, you might be just brown. They had the paper bag system, all those things. And so you had people who were there. Same thing was going on in France, right? But France in the 19th, so all this stuff is going on in France. Even when they lost to Haiti, they end up coming back over. They forced them to pay them reparations because they lost their slave colony, right? Which is why America eventually sold in the Louisiana Purchase. I'm sorry, America bought in the Louisiana Purchase all that land from France, native land. Nevertheless, they purchased the land, right? And the United States of America got it officially, even though they probably over time were just going to take it anyways. Manifest destiny. Anyways, though, they got this land because of France losing money because they lost Haiti, Toussaint Louverture, Dudley Bookman, etc., right? Jean-Jacques de Sillon, all these people, they lost the land, right? And nobody wants to talk about the warning that comes with this. See, France was always a third world country. They had no money, and they basically were taking money off that. They were fleecing not only them in the indigenous countries over here, they were fleecing the people in Africa, indigenous over there. And still to this day, they actually make money off of African countries that are still, for whatever reason, paying reparations. So France has not left any of the places that they're in. They still make money off of them. And then when France partnered up with the CIA, and the CIA took over, and they started helping in Haiti with people like Papa Doc and then his son, Baby Doc. And now you have a lot of stuff. And then remember recently when they weren't going to take the shot because they know how to eat correctly and know how to heal things, they took out that person. Right? We forget that the French were in all these wars in America too. We forget that Spain was in all these wars in America as well. Okay, Sitting Bull. Yes, okay. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your point right away. I apologize. I'll try to get to them as best we can. But thank you. I appreciate you for holding me accountable, making sure people are not aware of it, right? Right. So we have to be in a position. We have to be in a position to where we recognize what's going on. So when you talk about France, we don't even want to talk about in the early 1900s, because that was my focus overall, right? 1920s, right? That France was basically, they had no people, just like what's going on now. They were losing people. This happens all the time. This happened with Black Yamenta, or if you're talking about in Brazil, or what people call the whitening, happened in Canada, where they took children from native tribes and they basically tried to force feed them Western society so that they would give up on their native identity and they would become Western in mind, and therefore they would start marrying into people of other people to another people, so that they would start looking more like other people, but would still have the bloodline. Which is why you have blood quantum and you have $5 Indians and all this stuff. It's the same mindset, right? And how you doing, Queen? Thanks for being on, and thank you for the love. How you doing, D. Adams? Right? They had all these different things. Right? Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. And so France in the 1920s, they basically were a people who really were losing people. They weren't healthy enough, and they weren't having enough children, just like what's going on now. And so what did they do? They said, hey, we'll allow all these people to come in and immigrate. They didn't let immigrants come in. France is very particular as far as language. They even have laws as far as what you're allowed to name your children, all that stuff. They're very particular. How you doing, Unbreakable? They're very particular in what it is that they do. And by the way, it's their culture. They have every right to. We should be more particular about what it is that we allow to happen ourselves. They are very particular. They are very much so. This is what we say it is. We don't care what you believe. We don't care this and that. This is what you're gonna name your child. This is the language that you're gonna speak. This is how we work. This is how we operate. Even in I'm sorry, Quebec. Even in Quebec, they're having a problem now because people don't want to speak French anymore because people don't necessarily identify with that type of French or that type of culture as much. There's more influence on television from America than it is from Quebec, let alone even from Canada. So, but they have stuff where like you're not even allowed. Like if you get certain jobs in Quebec, almost all the jobs, for real, you have to speak French on the job. If you can't speak French, you can only get certain jobs because they rather you not speak at all if you can't speak French. You better speak French if you're going to work or get a job or get a paycheck over there. France, though, just like all these other nations, they're starting to have this thing in 1920s where we don't have any more people. So they invite all these immigrants in. They never really give them full citizenship, but they say you can live here, you can be bottom rung, you can be lower class. And because we messed up your countries, right? Because they started coming over from French speaking countries. So because we messed up your countries, you can come on over. Oh, right. As my wife was saying, actually, French class. For those of you remember we were talking about this now. So for the children, especially for those of you who are homeschooling, I forgot. Now we got to have we're if you it's at 3 p.m. Eastern. It's at 3 p.m. Eastern today. So if you can't, but remember, so on Saturdays we have Shabbat Shalom, or we have Shabbat Bit Sefer. We have Shabbat School for the children on Saturdays. We have Monday, and this is all on Zoom, so we'll get you these Zoom links and stuff. If you want them, just contact us. We'll make sure you get them. I'll try to send them out to parents today. At 3 p.m. on Mondays, we have French class. And then on, I don't know what time, babe, on Wednesdays, we have Solomon's going to have his Kung Fu club where you can learn Kung Fu, and he's going to lead, have some help, of course, but he'll lead some stuff in Kung Fu and some stretching and some stuff and some jumping jacks and things that our children can start to do together. So if you want to join in with that, that starts today. Remember, we were telling you now. Remember, also too, I have to say as a reminder again, we're going to have to eventually, with all the classes, I don't know if it'll be by this Saturday or next Saturday, but basically because of law, and especially if you're using some of this stuff for homeschooling, we're going to have to make sure that your children, when they come on, we have to see them, okay? Because we sometimes it might be an adult that's just watching children. So by law, we have to make sure that if we start doing more classes and stuff for them and things of that nature, we need to make sure that they can be seen. Okay, so just making you aware of that. So I know some people don't put their children on because they want them to be protected, but if it's homeschooling stuff and if you're going through stuff, like you'll find it with a lot of homeschooling uh, people who they charge you like $15 a month and you take math class or something like that. The rule is you have to show the children on there. Okay, so we have to make sure at least temporarily you have to make sure that the children are seen, especially when we get to kung fu. Just to be honest and be real with you, if we're going to show kung fu stuff to the children, we got to make sure the children are doing it correctly. Okay, so we have to be able to see them in that regard. How you doing, Sister Kimberly? But that'll start. But the French class starts today, 3 p.m. Eastern, New York time. So if you want your child to be a part of that, and if you're able to help them to join that, that's 3 p.m. Eastern, New York time. We'd love to have your children join with us. But we do Shabbat school on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, New York time. We do Monday as French class, 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern, New York time, and Kung Fu Club, I think it's 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern, New York time on Wednesdays. All right. Oh, of course, Adri. They can always, even if they're a newborn. I mean, they can hear it, and eventually they'll hear it enough, and they get to be a year old, 2 years old. They'll already be ready for it. Praise God, right? Um, Grand rising to you, dimples, and praise God for your new birth, Adri, brother. So or the new addition to the family, should I say. How you doing? Is it Renee or Renette? Not sure. Thank you for being on. Appreciate you. Okay, Kung Fu on Wednesdays is 2 p.m. Sorry. So Saturdays, 11 a.m. Shabbat Beit Sefer. Mondays, which is today, 3 p.m. Eastern for French class for the children. Wednesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern, there's going to be Kung Fu Club. All right, if you want to join. Alrighty. Amen. We might even have to start trying to figure out, well, I'll leave. We'll get to that in a little bit. Alrighty. How you doing, DeMarcus? How you doing, MIT Stephen? Thanks for being on. Alrighty. So, but yeah, so in France in the 1920s, what starts happening is they don't have enough people, so they start letting people immigrate, things of that nature. Eventually, they have another issue down the road where they're not having enough people, so they let stuff come in or whatever. Then they don't have enough money coming in, so they let more people come in. Some people are not called, they're basically called immigrants, even if they've been there for generations, but they're not called French. And eventually, some of them even identify as French, and some of the French people allow them. And usually, it's weird. I don't even know if you guys remember. You guys remember in France, there was a African man, and he scaled up, he climbed up like parkour style. He climbed up the side of a building, the side of an apartment complex, and he saved a baby, a French baby. And when he saved the French baby, all of a sudden they said he's French, and we need to realize that these immigrants are French. But it's like, well, if you thought they were French, why did they need to do something that you deem is saving your baby? Right? They have to save their baby and save people from all types of activity and bad stuff that you guys have against them all the time. Right? But you got to realize you come with a warning. This is what we're trying to talk about today. You come with a warning, right? You are dangerous to them because of who you are. You, unfortunately, I know people want to tell you you aren't who. This is why when our people say this, and I get why they're trying to say this, because they're trying to say some of us have swung too far in the opposite direction to be hateful and spiteful of people just because of their color and stuff as well. But we're not going to act like you get to disassociate from who you are. As I said before, the law says it doesn't matter who you are, it matters, or it doesn't matter where you're from, it matters who you are from. And I don't care if you want to say, well, I'm an African American. Guess what? You didn't start being African Americans till the 1980s, 1970s at the earliest, right? Now, we had no problem in Africa being black, but they didn't start calling you black in the West until the 1900s, late 1800s, maybe, right? Negro, if you look in Western law, Negro literally means you can be native or you can be African. If you look in the law books, I didn't say that's what you are. I'm saying that's what they call you, right? You are dangerous. And just because you want to call yourself different doesn't mean that when you show up in the room, you are going to be treated different. You said like the football team when they win. Oh, yeah, when they win the World Cup and they're French. Yeah. Right. Who's the guy who's French now? But one or is maybe he's actually that might be a bad example. It might be Brazilian. Maybe I'm thinking of another World Cup. But you see that all the time. Yeah, the World Cup. Yeah, these are our people. This is that. We love all these people, but then go watch, Manchester United take on somebody and hear the vitriol and stuff that's spewed. And go watch some of these soccer videos where they show people throwing bananas on the field and making gorillas and sounds at people. You can call yourself whatever you want, but you showed up, and because of who you are, it's a danger automatically. Thank you. In the limit, appreciate the compliment. How you doing, Minister Tamar? Or I'm the limit. Sorry, I'm the limit. I am the limit, possibly. How you doing, Sister Valor? See, so we got to come to a place to where when you show up, you are who you are, and you come with a warning. And see, they already perceive you as dangerous. And what I would like for you today is to be somewhat armed and dangerous. Now, do I believe in having weapons and stuff? I have no problem with that at all, right? However, when we're talking about being dangerous, hear what I'm saying? When we talk about being dangerous, hear what I'm saying? When we talk about being dangerous, if I'm gonna be dangerous already, I might as well be armed, protected, secured. Uh-oh. right? If I'm going to be dangerous because of it, so but Pastor Kofi, you just said you have a problem with weapons, but you're not necessarily talking about weapons. What should I be armed with? Be armed with your culture. The Bible is you. Why don't you know who you are? Why does it have to come through somebody else's prism every time? If they're already deemed as dangerous, then we should stop looking at it through their prism. Right? You need to be armed on who you are. Look, sisters, they're already saying that black women are bad. You see in videos come out from your brethren and others that are already telling you on the videos, man, I don't want to deal with them, man. Dating, have you ever dated? This is other diaspora saying, have you ever dated a black girl? Yeah, man, it's a lot that goes with it, and they don't do this, and they got attitudes and blah blah and this and that or whatever. And guess what? Because you will not be a trophy wife, you've already been deemed to be dangerous. You might as well be armed with the love of yourself. Yeah, exactly. If you see me as dangerous, then I need to be armed. My culture, my righteousness is for protection. The law, right? Law doesn't give rights. Law protects rights. And that propaganda is very strong. So I might as well, and how you doing, Sister Carol? I might as well make sure I'm armed if you already declared me to be dangerous. Now, just because I'm armed doesn't mean I'm any more dangerous than what you've declared me to be. I've been in the military before, and everybody might be armed. Everybody's dangerous if you come against the United States corporation that we worked for. Everybody is dangerous if you mess around and do the wrong thing. But if you do what you're supposed to do, we're armed, but we're actually supposed to be there for your protection. And the protection is also to protect ourselves. But if you've been deemed dangerous, you might as well be armed with who you are. See, you come with a warning. Stop thinking that you come the way that everybody else comes. Stop thinking that you're the orange juice in the store, right? The child can buy the orange juice, right? But not everybody can buy the malt liquor, right? The child can get the gum, but not everybody can get the wine cooler. There's a warning that comes with some things, and it's dangerous, even if it's not really as dangerous as one might think. But there's danger levels, and really the danger levels come from when somebody says we can't handle that. Or watch this. Sometimes the danger level comes when you can't profit off of it. Mm. See, what is the definition of capitalism? Thank you for the love. What is the definition of capitalism? Capitalism is defined as a system in which politics and economics are used to control trade and industry. That trade and industry is wielded by private corporations for profit and not by the state or the government. If corporations cannot profit off of you, you are already dangerous to a capitalist society. That's when the government sees us as dangerous. See, I can't profit off of a black woman being given the ability to be nurtured and secured. That's not how this. That's not how the West made money. A Native woman being protected and secured. That's not how I make money in capitalism. But oh, if I want to make money, see, if I wanted views, if I really wanted views, y'all, people be thinking I do this for views and stuff. If I really wanted views, if I really wanted this following that people think that I have and all that stuff, and if I really wanted it, it's really easy. You know what the first thing I would do? I would tell I would just come on here and say something as simple as this. Man, F women. Y'all think I'm joking. If I really wanted money, if I really wanted to turn this into a business, all I would have to do is down women and immediately, even if they canceled me, even if they canceled me, yeah, say something that tickles their ears. If they want their ear, they lean their ears to favor. Even if they cancel me, how many people have been canceled? How many people have been taken down? And people still seek them out because they need somebody to go ahead and scratch that hateful itch that they have. All I would have to do is just say, you know what, I'm done with this. You know what, I'm going to go ahead and try to be with multiple wives. And if my wife can't handle this because she can't handle the body, if I talk like this, more people would start popping up on here than ever before. The land would have been gotten. If I started talking about being an alpha, if I started talking red pill, if I started being a patriarch, why? Because it's the patriarchs, the red pillars, who guide your society. You must comprehend. See, you are not, when you go to school, you don't go to school to be educated. This is the problem. This is why we got to start having these extra classes for our babies and for you all, and these live sessions all the time, and these meetups, and making sure that we talk to each other, call each other. You don't go to school that you might learn something about yourself. You go to school. How you doing, Sister Patricia? You go to school to do what? You go to school to be taught how to live in capitalism, to make money for the people who have the most. Capitalism is automatically about sex, sects. That is what it's about. See, people want to say, oh no, everybody can make it, this and that or whatever. Are there stories of people who made it out the mud and became billionaires? Yes. But see, don't come to me talking about Trump. Trump came from money. You can't tell me about Bill Gates. Bill Gates came from money, used the money to buy somebody else's stuff, didn't create anything, and he came from money, right? Steve Jobs, who did work with others to create something, he didn't create everything himself, right? He had a team, but Steve Wozniak, he came from money. Even though he was adopted, he came from money. Even some of these people are like, I didn't grow up rich and I didn't have money. Check the record. If you middle class, peep game in the D in Detroit right now. Well, I don't know if right now it might be better, might be worse. But in the D, at least last year, the average income for a family of our diaspora in the D in Detroit, the average income for Detroit's family is $6,000 a year. Somebody thought I was about to say 6,000 a month, but they're doing pretty decent. No. The average income for a family, not a person, is $6,000 a year. But they get so much stuff from the government, and it's not fair. They just want to mooch off the government. That's why they're poor. $6,000 is the average. How you doing, Rissa? But if I wanted to make money, it'd be very easy to say all those people in Detroit, they just lazy. All those people in Flint, Michigan, they complaining about water. Man, why don't you go ahead and just fix your water? It's real easy to say that, but who are the people that control the water? Do the residents control the water? So when you go to Detroit, you got to realize that promiscuity, that prostitution is a way of life. Because $6,000 a month ain't nothing. And they've made a way for wickedness by performing wickedness. By the way, if you are drinking water that's full of lead and being poisoned in your brain, do you think that you'll start making some poisonous behavior because you are what you eat? If I poison your water system, do you think you'll probably have some brain issues and some decisive issues and some decision issues and some eating issues and some health issues and some cognitive issues? Of course. But that's not what you're told, is it? It's that they're evil, that they're lazy. You see those black folk, they just want to mooch off the government and this and that. See, because you come with a warning, you are dangerous. And what's happened is they took away your ability to arm yourself. They said, don't make your own community. Let our police come through. Wait a minute. How is it that you're supposed to be loving our community? Our community falls apart. Your police come through all day, and yet we don't have any change. At some point, separation is mandatory. I didn't say segregation, but separation, at least mentally and financially speaking, at some point it's got to be mandatory. Right? They talk about Chicago and stuff like that. Talk to the old heads in Chi-Town. They grew up in the 60s and 70s. I'm telling you not what I know because I didn't live there. I'm telling you what they know, the people who are from there. They grew up to where they would go through and walk in the alleys because they would find unmarked guns and bullets in different alleys. They can't afford the gun, but they find them. You got to tell me how that happens, right? Because even see, there's honor amongst thieves. Even the people who sell guns, right? They know eventually down the road maybe a child will get their hand on it. But even the people who sell guns, they at least bare minimum gonna make some money off of it, right? Like, so they're not just gonna put the stuff out there for free. There ain't no free samples with guns. How you doing, Tianya? How you doing, Kiara? Right? So how did they get there? Do the research. The police left them there. Why would the police leave them there if they were about protecting the city? I wonder. But you'll hear all this stuff, the violence in Chi-Town. Y'all police go through Chi-Town all the time. What's happening? Well, we can't control everything. We can't, but you guys made sure that when the riots happened, you guys put a whole bunch of people in Chicago in the same place, put them in a place where they were condensed, put a bunch of bricks there for them to be able to use to throw at you. You literally pound up bricks, put them in a position there, lifted up bridges and everything. And then all of a sudden it was at a place where this killer or off would be off, I guess. And then they had to do what they had to do. And then you locked them up and you told the whole world that they were the problem, that they were looters. You want to show the condition of the Walmart and why Walmart needs to go out of Chicago. And now you got these people talking about, see, the government and this and deserts, food deserts and stuff like that. Food deserts existed before Walmart got looted. Yeah, they said the cops. Yeah, the cops were doing about a little. As a matter of fact, we have videos of them. I put some of them up. They took them down. Right, but I put some of them up on Kofi_40 and Kofi_42, where they literally, you could see police officers, I'm not talking about maybe, you saw them putting the bricks up, leaving, and then you see another video where the people are forced in there and start throwing bricks after the police officers are firing rubber bullets at them, which, by the way, sometimes the rubber bullets, see, you just go rubber, so you go, well, it hurts, which, by the way, let somebody hit you with a rubber bullet, especially up close. It's going to do more than just hurt, right? They showed children's faces messed up. And people say, well, why were children at the thing? Why were you hitting people with rubber bullets? Number one. But then number two, those rubber bullets had like brass casings on them. You see, you come with a warning. You said, why is it your police are deemed as a solution when policing creates problems? Yeah, by the way, look at the police badges, and then look up police badges and slave patrol badges. How you doing, Lion Painter? Long time no talk to. Yeah, and then we saw, then you saw that people were getting paid. You saw people who were police officers. They found out that some of these people were police officers, or if they weren't police officers, they might have been alt-right, but they were not people who were marching with people. And you would see that somebody was looting who wasn't with the people who were marching, and you would see people that were marching come over and say, hey, please don't do this. Why are you doing this? You know they're going to think it's us. And they started recording it. But that's not talked about at all, is it? What I'm saying is if you're going to be deemed dangerous anyways for marching, then I don't, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who they love to give you parts of his quotes and parts of his heart and parts of his mind, but they don't want you to eat the whole scroll. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. told you that looting is the language of the oppressed. How you doing, more Israel? How you doing, guest sissy? Yeah, they had the brass casing. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he preached, yes, and he also proclaimed, yes, and he also told truth, yes. And one of the things he told you is that, hey, when you see people looting, the oppressed loot, which is why Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. probably wouldn't have had as much a problem as what people in 68 did when he was not only shot, but then he was smothered with a pillow in his hospital bed. He probably wouldn't have had a problem with people who feel like this man is doing what he's supposed to do, and you guys are still going to do what he does. I'm not going to say he wouldn't have any problem, but they probably would have said the same thing. Man, look, here I am trying to speak well of you and trying to say that there's something in you that can be better, and my reward for it is to be taken out. And I'm somebody who's a leader in my community. The community says, well, if you're not going to deal with us, and you're going to call us dangerous even when we're sitting there and letting you hit us with fire hoses, and you're sicking dogs and little children and little girls are being burned down inside churches, and you won't let us sit in buses. And even after we do the bus boycotts, we still have to send out paperwork to our people that says, hey, even though we won officially, somebody tell you to get to the back of the bus, they'll do it because they'll still lock you up and still do all this stuff. And you're going to take out our leadership, then guess what? Looting is the language of the oppressed. But see, instead of getting to the point to where we loot, I just feel like, matter of fact, I won't even say, let me get my feelings out of it. Let me not give you opinion right now. I try to stay away from that always. Let me just go ahead and say, if you're going to be in a dangerous spot that gets you to where you feel you can't survive because you got to loot everything. We might as well just start teaching our people, hey, don't go to the stores, learn how to forage. Don't go to the stores, learn how to make your own food. Don't go to the stores. You need shirts and stuff. See Brother Jermaine. See Minister Tamara. See Minister Shantae. See, I know she ain't. I don't know if she got the printing press together yet. But see Sister Sheba, right? If you want to make sure that you get something for your skin, you don't need to go to Walmart anyways. Why not get shea butter from Sister Beverly, right? If you need somebody to help you as far as health, right? Why not see a Minister Tama or see a Sister Sonia, or of course, obviously, you guys already know we talk about it, advertise all the time. Why not see the Honorable Maya and things that she has, tinctures and different sprays that she makes, and even syrups that you can put on that are natural, or even soap that she makes, right? Like, why not support each other and grow each other to where you're not even worried about it? They take a Walmart out of my community, so what? I have my own food. I have my own clothing. I have my own, like, we have our own. Right. But the only reason that looting even gets their attention is because their bottom dollar is messed up. That's it. You're in capitalism. If they're not holding on to capital, then the corporation is messed up. But see, you got to figure out how to hold on to your capital. And your first capital, watch this. This is why I said you come with a warning sign and you become you're dangerous to them, but you're not armed. When you become armed and dangerous, it's going to be on and popping. That's why you got to be ready to separate. Why? Especially in your mind. Why? Because see, you're dangerous. But watch this. See, in a zoo, a lion is dangerous. Uh-oh. Please forgive me. Trigger warning. I know this is gonna make some people frustrated with me. I'm not trying to say you're an animal, but I'm saying you locked up like one. Heirloom garden, sure. Heirloom seed, yeah. Remember, it's not too long. I know they want you to think that this is a really long time ago, but it's not. But a little less than 100 years ago, that you were still in zoos. Not everybody, but you were still in zoos. Matter of fact, it's not that long ago. Matter of fact, when I say not that long ago, I don't even have to go back but a couple of years. That in Georgia, not not somewhere long takes ago. Not just only, and by the way, there's still sex slaves and stuff like that too. There's still children that get stolen and their body parts get stolen and traded on the market. Trigger warning, just for educational purposes only. I'm just telling you the truth. Right. But it's not that long ago that I can just go a couple years ago to where they caught people once again, not for the first time, once again in Georgia, they caught people who were enslaving people who were black and brown. Hmm. You remember? Some of y'all remember. They didn't even talk about it that long. They talked about it less than the people that were being shot and stuff, because that was the fad that we were on, and that was what we were supposed to focus on at this point, because you were trying to be Black Lives Matter and everything. But real talk, like, you just got caught with slaves, red-handed, and you got arrested for it, which means that you must have been messing with somebody's bottom line, because for real, there's more than that just happens. Let's not forget, you can go on. I forget what it is. Somebody can tell us in the chat what the name of the special is. I haven't watched it, but I already know the stuff that's on there, because people have told me. But I'm like, oh yeah, I already knew that. I read about that. I've seen the clips and blah blah. Right. But in Netflix, they got a series where you can listen to a man that was a slave in the 70s. I don't mean just slave, because by the way, chattel slavery is lawful, it's legal in the United States corporation, as long as you arrest the person first. That's what the 13th Amendment did. You can't be just a slave because of the color of your skin only, right? But yeah, like there's a guy, you can listen to him talk. He's still alive. His family's still alive, right? And I'm not talking about the next generation. I'm talking about he is the generation of slave, right? And I don't remember where exactly he was a slave, so forgive me. I want to say Texas, but I'm not 100% sure if that's correct. But that's in the 60s and 70s. This was known and still is known, right? Don't forget, wasn't too long ago we just swept it under the rug because he's a great man. But Robert Kraft, who Tom Brady went to his wedding and everything, while going ahead and getting a divorce from his wife because he said that football was more important. Now maybe there were some other things too, right? So let me not just be totally irresponsible in that. But Robert Kraft, he got in trouble. Why did Robert Kraft get in trouble? This time it wasn't for cheating on the football field, right? His wife had passed, so we can say maybe he wasn't cheating, but possibly he wasn't doing this when his wife was alive. I don't know. However, why did Robert Kraft get in trouble? owner of the New England Patriots. He got in trouble because he was going to this club in Florida. Right? How you doing, it's KJ? He got in trouble because his wife was going to a club. Or no, sorry, he was going to a club in Florida. In that club, right, they were watching these people, and he was caught up on it because they were getting ready for a RICO. They were getting ready to go ahead and catch these people who were enslaving children, women, men, and forcing them to do stuff at these sex clubs. It wasn't just a place where it was stripping. People were going there to initiate forced. If you want to say it was forced, these people, yeah, fine, they danced, they acted like they wanted it, but it was because if they didn't, they would have been offed. So these people were living lives where they were forced into something and even sometimes being drugged. So they would have to do that. But Robert Kraft, once again, he owns people. He's an owner of a team. He has other businesses. He's a multi-billionaire. So he's an owner. And in corporation, in the definition of capitalism, the owner of corporations do things for profit, and they run stuff, not the government. So everybody just doesn't talk about that. Robert Kraft, great man, great owner, New England, this and that. Robert Kraft's not going to accept this for so long, this and that, or whatever. And you got to comprehend he was lonely, his wife passed away, or whatever. This man was involved with sex trafficking. Y'all saw it. And basically that was the punishment. They said, look, Robert Kraft, you make too much money, this and that, or whatever. He got his lawyers involved, everything. They said, look, okay, people know that you did it. We got to at least do something. And so what did he do? Did he even have to sit out as an owner for a little bit? I don't even know. Maybe he paid a fine. But he ain't do no jail time for that. Involved with SAing people. Right? But you mess around and have your little boy playing with a toy gun, he's not going to make it. You come with a warning time. I would be wrong to act like you don't come with a warning time. Said if we only dealt within the community, we wouldn't need the system like most people think we do. We don't need them, they need us. Exactly, DeMarcus. Right? The country was built on you, on your labor, and on you getting away from yourself. The further you get away from yourself, the more control they have over your people. See, you're already dangerous. Now mess around and get armed with you being Israel, and you armed and dangerous. But if you're going to be dangerous already, you might as well be armed with knowledge of yourself. Now, once again, I'm not saying this is white versus black, because people can be grafted in. We cannot use just part of the scripture and then act like the other part that we don't like, or the part that doesn't make us feel like we're in control or powerful, or we get to enslave people, doesn't exist. Right? What I'm saying, though, is that it's all right for you to have a culture that you stand on just like anybody else does. And this is why I tell people, and I'm not trying to say, look, some of you live lives, you have to do this. But this is why I'm not focused. When people say, well, Pastor Kofi, what should I do with what they're doing in the school system with my child? I can only give you so much, because the school system is designed to do what the school system does, which is to make sure that your child is just as jacked up as we ended up. Your child is labor. That's what they represent. They're learning how to clock in and clock out, home rule. They're learning how to make sure that they hear the bell when it's time to take a break in the warehouse or in prison, right? School bell. They're learning how to make sure that no matter what manager they listen to, that they listen to that manager and think that that manager always has their best interest at heart. You call them school teachers. They're learning how to make sure that you put more stock in the stuff that you won't ever use except for when you're in the system. That's why you have mathematical equations that somebody can show you today, and your child says, Mom, help me with this homework, Dad, help me with this homework, and you look at it like it's Chinese. Right? You're like, I don't know what this is at all, because you do not even use it. How you doing, Sister Toya? Right. And might I say this too? It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure meeting everybody in Georgia. We really had fun. Everybody was great. It was excellent. Babies got to run around. We didn't really get a chance to have too much time to look at the mounds, but at least we got to look at a little bit of it. Got a nice little picture and everything. That was some pictures, actually. We got a bunch of them. I'm going to try and put some together, and also put together some stuff that One of us said I know they didn't want their stuff on there, so we try to make sure your face and everything's not on there. Praise y'all. How you doing, metaphysical? Right, but I'm just saying this is stuff that we're in. You got to see how tall you are. Amen. Amen. Tall in the spirit. Praise y'all. Right. And this is and this is the stuff that we got to get. We have to realize. How you doing, T of y'all? So what do I think will happen to help the community gather in the coming future? Well, it's not about what I think. I'll tell you what has to happen. We have to have something that's for ourselves. It has to start with us. It has to start with us putting something aside for ourselves, and putting ourselves to the side, if that makes sense. If we don't put ourselves to the side, like that's to sanctify. That's what the word sanctified, to make holy. Right? If we don't put ourselves to the side, if we don't start putting our best interests, if we don't start storing up things for ourselves, storing up treasures in the right places. That's what the Bible would declare it as, right? Like many people have their treasures stored up in places that rot, that moths get to, that are corrupted. Right? We have a saving account mentality. We save it in the system, right? We should go ahead and see. We got to even learn how law works too. We're gonna have to get back to law. There are things that are lawful that we can do, and we just assume because they say it's not legal. There are things that are totally lawful for us to do, and they can't stop you from doing it. But we have to be in a position where we're always on point, to where we can be protected. How you doing, Rock Lot? Grand Rising to you. But I'm trying to tell you, you come with a warning. You're already deemed to be dangerous. So why not be armed and dangerous? I'm not talking about, once again, just physical weapons. I'm talking about armed with truth, armed with civility, armed with nation building. Yeah, we've been building our house in the sand and not on the rock. See, watch this. It's sandy. People keep saying, and I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you even said it that way. Right? What is sand, by the way? Remember, sea is the water. Land is what's supposed to be solid. So what's in between is the sand. The S comes from the sea. The A and D comes from the land. Sand, right? And what happens is we built ourselves, and this is why I do the teaching as much as I do, because it's going to start in the mind first. And once it clicks, and then not only clicks in the mind, it starts to click in our work. See, a lot of people even have gotten to a place where we have faith that we can do this, but we're not working it at all. And when you don't work your faith, we still end up in the same lifeless situation. Right? But yes, and I'm sorry, how you doing, Baked in Atlanta? Thanks for being part of the community. So we have this situation where we've got so many of it, like we're spread out all over, at least the country. We're spread out in other countries too, but we could really start doing some really great things in the United States of America in different pockets already. But we're in this place where we still live in a sandy place. Our foundation is obviously, some people are just all in the water. I mean, you spirit and spirit and spirit, but you have nothing solid to go with it. And some of you are about manifestation, land. You have no water to go with it, right? But we should try to be on the land. I'm sorry. We should try to be, I said it wrong, but hopefully you got the context. We should be on the land, basically, where it's solid, right? Solid foundation. But the sea, and in between the sea, the S, and the land, the A and D, is the sand. And in the sand, you can build a sand castle, but it doesn't last overnight. How you doing, Great Wigs? Thanks for being on from Canada. You can build a sand castle, but it's not going to last overnight. How you doing, Takwa? Shalom. You can build a sand castle, but it's not going to last until, when the wind and the waves show up. When the tide comes in, which it's supposed to. The tide is supposed to come in and out, right? And what's happened is we have everything built on something that really is not rock. So watch this. Our teachings even are not built off of rock because it's not real. They're not solid. How you doing, Strauss? And so our teachings, since they're not built on the rock, guess what? Tide comes in and it leaves. And our position. So Tulsa is not the only place, right? You have Wilmington, you have Rosewood, you have Tulsa, you've had Tuskegee, you've had Philadelphia, right? You've had tons of different stuff. You have where Central Park is, what is it, Seneca Village. You had the water that's next to Central Falls. That was another village that was ours. You've had reservations that have been gotten. You got a lot of stuff. right? We've had a lot of these things, and we keep saying, well, we can never make it work. We can never make it work. You've had the Negro Leagues, and you wanted to go ahead and integrate. We've had all this stuff already. And what happens, Lake Lanier, I mean, yeah, the list goes on and on, right? Like, you can do research on just former Black cities that are underwater, right? Just in the United States of America, just in one state. Look up in just a state, pick a state and start doing your research. You'll find a lot of them, right? That being said, and all these things that happened, let's pick one. Let's pick Tulsa. In Tulsa, you had a community, you had somebody who was making money. They were getting to a place to where they were going to start making money with other countries. But they kept trying to allow this whole thing of, we're going to be integrated with everybody else. Now, once again, I'm not talking about segregation, I'm talking about separation. But see, they were doing business with the same people who would ultimately start a whole war with them, and pretty much overnight get rid of a society that was considered to be one of the richest societies in the world. We're not talking about kind of sort of had money. We're not saying they had money for Black folk. We're talking about this is one of the richest societies at the time in the world. And people that were not going to do business with the Confederacy, with King Cotton, which, by the way, you can still see on some of your shelves, right? But they weren't going to do business with the Confederacy. However, they were going to go and do business with Tulsa. And what happened is once again, we didn't realize that we come with a warning sign. We don't realize who we are. They even had people who had served in the military, and they had people that were ready to defend them to a certain degree, but you kept letting people in. And so all these people that are doing business, you don't think that they're seeing where your landmarks are, where your stuff is, where's the food at, where are the women at, what are the businesses that make the most money? And then sure enough, all they got to do is lie, because nobody's ever seen the evidence of this. All they got to do is tell a lie, right? All they got to do is tell a lie and say, hey, there was a white girl in the elevator, and there was a Black man who mistreated her. And now all of a sudden, you gather the troops of the white men, not all white men, right? But these particular white people who did do what they did. And now here they come. And everybody has this war off of a lie. And your community goes down because you didn't realize that you come with a warning. I'm not here to talk poorly of Ashkenazi elite, right? I'm here to give you a truth. Ashkenazi Jews don't mind separating themselves. Be mad at them all you want, but that's a principle you should use, especially when you say you're the Jew. Okay, no problem. Separate yourself. Render to Caesar's what is Caesar's, but give Elohim what is Elohim's. And even though they don't really worship the same Elohim that they do, and even we do, and even though a lot of them are more Talmudic than followers of Torah or Tanakh, hey, guess what? Their dollar circulates in their communities 40, 50, 60 times before anybody else touches it. That's what they're taught. And it's not always just because they hate you. They're taught that because they're supposed to build themselves up like any other society should. Little Havana should build themselves up as any other society should. Right? Silicon Valley should build themselves up as any other society should. I was talking about France, and yes, some of the stuff is skeptical, right? It's fishy, right? However, they should build themselves up as any other society should. Yeah, we can't get at them because they're taking care of themselves first. I have mad respect and admiration for everybody that's listening to me. You guys know, right? A lot of you even know myself, know my family, you know us personally. If I have to make a choice, I have to make sure my family eats. Now, I praise Yah that Yah has put us in a position to where my eating becomes your eating and your eating becomes my eating, which is the goal ultimately, right? But watch this. Sister Monica has children. Sister Sage has children. Sister Nadine has children, right? Many of you have children. Praise Yah for them. And we bless them, and we try to do whatever we can to sow into them. And we'll continue to do that. But guess what? Sister Maya's child is going to get a certain level of being looked at first from me, because Sister Maya's child is my child. Elder Maya's child is my child. First Lady Maya's child is my child. And that's because my child came from the union of her and I being one. And we're still one, and we're going to always be one, right? Even in the spirit, after death, we'll still be united in the same body. So we're still going to be one, because this is not just till death do us part. This is for eternity. So even with that being said, and even with that being brought to the forefront, we have mad love and respect for all your children. She's going to be teaching classes. She's now got herself set up to do 3 sets of teaching, or at least be involved in 3 sets of teaching, all 3 times a week all year, just for the children. Then going to teach the adults when we start school up again as well. So she's dedicated to making sure others are getting teaching. But she can't make sure your child in Texas is getting food. She can tell you how to do some things, how to forage, but you're going to have to use those things, right? And it doesn't make her a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad person. It means that we have a certain responsibility. Thank you for the love. We have a certain responsibility to address them first. To address Solomon, first. Not because we don't like anybody. It's because we have been given a specific calling, and out of our loins has come the blessing of Solomon. And he's going to be our legacy. He's going to be the seed. See, y'all just look at the fruit, but out of the fruit comes the seed. He's going to plant something in the ground that's going to cause other trees to grow. Yeah, we got priorities. And you have priorities. Now, I take all that to say, why is it that people try to make us ashamed? We are the only people where people say that it is wrong when we say this is a Black business. We're the only people that say it's wrong when we say, hey, we are Israelites. People say, we're the only people that say, like, everybody else got a blood quantum for us. They keep you from even being native. They keep you from being in your tribe. Everybody else wants to rename you and rebrand you. You've been rebranded and renamed so many times that you don't know what to call your diaspora. You've been rebranded and renamed so many times that you don't know what to call your religiosity. How you doing, Minister Morel? Real talk. You don't know if you're a follower of the way, or if you're an Israelite, if you're a Christian, or you're a believer, or you just one with Yah, or if you're SOC, or if you're part of this camp, or if you're IUIC, or whatever you are, if you're with Yahweh ben Yahweh, or Yahweh ben Yahweh, or whatever. You don't know what you are. You're not aware of what you are. You have no clue as to who you are, because they keep rebranding you. At some point, why not have your own name? The name of your fathers. If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, fast, pray, turn from their wicked ways, then I would hear from heaven. You don't even know when somebody calls your name. And if somebody calls your name, if the Most High calls you, somebody else says, no, that's not what you are. That's a reverse racist. You say, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. You know what? I've got to fit in their society. I apologize. I can't be what you called me to be. I wish somebody would tell my son his name is not Solomon. It's not Solomon. That he's not a prince. That he's not trained to be a king. That he's not a husband. That he should get rid of his hair. That he shouldn't be learning these different things. That he should go to somebody else's school so that they'll take away his identity. That he should be who YouTube says. I wish somebody would tell me and tell my son, and I find out about it. But they have you feeling guilty about being who you are. Oh, it's going to get difficult if we feel guilty about being who we're called to be. I'm called to be righteous. I'm called to be righteous. Why is that difficult for you to live in? Right, lawful standing. See, you come with a warning sign. If I'm already dangerous, then I might as well be armed with some knowledge of myself. I might as well be armed I might as well be armed with some land. I might as well be armed and dangerous. If I'm gonna be dangerous anyways, I might as well make sure I got vehicles in control. Maybe I should own my own vehicles, right? Maybe I should create my own vehicles so I don't have to worry about somebody else. I might as well be armed and dangerous. If I'm already dangerous when I show up because somebody says that I always having to change what they make at the cookout and stuff because they want to eat pork and this and that or whatever, and they don't want to eat things that are healthy, then I might as well just come with my own food. I might as well be armed and dangerous. You see what I'm saying? If you already said that I'm a danger to you, then I might as well be armed and dangerous. You come with a warning. and you keep trying to change who you are, trying to say, well, somebody can name me something different, or somebody can help me to be something different. Somebody can, if I just do this at the job, I'll fit in. If my children just do, if I change their name. You see, there are so many people that come from other countries that you name your children stuff, right? And you give them more Eurocentric sounding names so that they can get a job later on in life. I mean, this is how we think. I know nobody wants to say, or maybe you haven't done it on here. I promise you, right? I have immigrants in my family, as many of you do, right? And come from immigrants in my lineage. And when you look at what they did, they started naming their children things that were as Eurocentric as possible. Matter of fact, if you go over to Africa, everybody's got their names from their branches of what you call tribes, from their kingdoms and stuff, from their families. But then they say everybody has to have a Christian name, supposedly free from apartheid, supposedly free from colonization, supposedly free nations. But see, the mind is still messed up. Supposedly free, but the mind is still enslaved. I'm just saying, and we were taught this because in our mind, we know that if you don't fit in with them, stop being peculiar, as the word says, start fitting in. And as I fit in with them, then they'll give me opportunities. They'll give my child an opportunity. If they give my child an opportunity, then that's all it's about. And so I'll go ahead, I'll deal with the stuff, but they shouldn't have to deal with it. But guess what? Even after your child has the name on the resume, when they go in for the job application, they still see who they are. Oh, don't be ashamed of it, Sister Monica. Everybody's doing it, right? I'm just saying this is why we got to get into that name change or that authority change in our mind. Yeah, you got to be equipped with the sword. Yeah, people look at you funny when you're disciplined and stuff. That's why, you know, um, people look at people crazy when they want to be better. But why is that? Because you're not supposed to be better. You got to think about it. You're not even immigrant and did it completely. You're not going to debt my child from Jump Street. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've been taught that. And the reason is watch this, because in our mind, there's no way our child can make it in their community. Now, this is why we have to deal with the environment, right? This is why we had to deal with the environment. How you doing, Brother Kofi? We got to deal with the environment now. We had to deal with the what? The environment. We got to be honest now. Let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it real. Let's keep it 100. What I've said this plenty of times. What reward is there for you being you in your environment? First of all, do you have an environment? What reward is there in your environment? Are you more rewarded for selling drugs, playing basketball, or being somebody who heals people? Come on now. It's better. You find more people who will support Lil Wayne than will support Brother Kobe. There's more people that are going to support Lil Kim than will support Elder Maya. Right? Do you hear what I'm saying? This is the way it is in your mind. Righteousness, taking care of your families, being a diaspora, having your own, loving each other, and not finding it robbery to do what the Most High does is not on your agenda, because there's no reward for it. When do we start to set up a community and really watch this? This is going to help the mind, because see, this is why games are important. Even the children, when you have games, when we played games when we were younger, games came with rules, game came with regulations, game came with a reward. If I'm playing jacks with the jacks, right? At the end of the day, if I get the most in my hand, right, I win. I get to clap. Everybody gets to bow down for a second and say, great work, awesome. Let's play again. There's a reward for that. But we want to be in a society and keep talking about coming to ourselves, and we have not set up any place where we can start to reward ourselves. See, even if the reward is something as simple as we're seeing the children change. This is why I love the Shabbat school that we have on Saturday. It is so rewarding to see little children on there smiling and being excited and learning about each other, growing with each other. And some of them meet each other in person for the first time, and they start to have, circles, stuff like that. And now, when we have events like what's coming up in September for Feast of Tabernacles, and everybody comes together and learns and grows and stuff. And it's like, wow, okay, cool. And we have meetups, even if I'm not at the meetups, because we encourage people to meet up. You don't have to have me at a meetup, right? Y'all should be growing together and stuff. But we had these meetups and stuff, and everybody loves and learns each other, and people are calling each other on the phone, and people are asking now, hey, can I call? Can I make sure that I do this? Can I make sure I do this? And people are growing, and people are supporting each other's businesses. And I get somebody that says, hey, we want to give you a little something. What are you giving us a little something for? Well, you guys were the ones telling people to help out our business, and we got enough sales and this, and so we want to do what we're supposed to do and give something back to the community, right? We're starting to have conversations with people where we're going to get food banks and clothing stuff going, where it's not just my wife and I, where we have time trying to do this stuff here and there, but now others are going to start doing it, right? And there's a reward. It's community. See, communities need to be rewarded. In your community, the individuals in society need a reward. This is why people will do all this stuff for likes and stuff, because they don't have any likes in their life. And so they just do all this stuff. They'll shake their behind. My wife was telling me about something crazy where there's like women now that apparently are starting to treat TikTok like OnlyFans. They won't obviously get straight up nude, but I guess they're showing like their cleavage, and they got big breasts and everything, or they're showing their behinds and stuff. And if they get enough likes, or if they get enough gifts on there, if you give a certain gift, then they'll go ahead and like make their, go like this and make their breast jiggle and stuff like that. Like people are out here doing a lot of stuff, a lot of what we used to call it back in the day. You do something a little strange for some change. The word strange means foreign. That's not who you are. But because you're not, once again, remember I said the sister, when she comes with a warning, but you're not willing to see. If you want to love the sister out of doing that stuff, she got to find that there's a reward that's just as powerful, if not more powerful, than that little like or that little money in her pocket. Mm-hmm. If you want that sister to become a wife, there's got to be a reward for becoming a wife. Wives, even before they are married, because in our culture, you have to be qualified to be a wife before marriage. Wives have to be protected enough security, and they have to be given enough affection to be able to get to a place to where they'll start saying, all right, like I'm willing to go ahead and look for missions to a mission to submit to, because it's not called submission, it's called submission. But if I don't feel secure, why in the world would I look for a mission that doesn't secure me? And so they'll start looking for any kind of mission, even if it means that they have to do things and not have certain admission, and they start doing certain things to cause certain omission. They will do whatever's possible to make sure that they do something to survive. Now I'm in survival mode, and if survival mode means giving up my soul, well, at least my body survives. Even though I have no connection to my spirit anymore, I've sold my soul, at least my body is in order. But if I make sure, but even in that, it gets to a sad place, because as much as, look, and I'm one person that believes even when you get older, right, a woman's body is still beautiful, especially it should be beautiful to her husband, right? Because your body is still part of who you are, right? And you are more than just the shape of your body, if you will. Nevertheless, that's why I get sad, because when these sisters who have this mental sickness, when they get older and that's all they've been looking at and that's all that they've had, then they start to lose status, because in their mind, the only reward that they get as a reward attached to their bosom and not attached to what should be in their bosom. See, you have become, some of us have become dangerous and never got armed with anything to stop that danger from not just being towards others, but being towards our very selves. How you doing, Apostle Yeoman? You hear what I'm saying? Many of us have gotten to a place to where we have stopped being dangerous to others, and we forgot to protect ourselves, arm ourselves, so that we would not have the danger turn on ourselves. If you learn how to fire a weapon, you know that in learning how to fire a weapon, first things first is to learn safety, gun safety, fire safety, certain regulations, right? If you have a weapon, your weapon should never be pointed at anybody, even if it's in your hand, unless you are dealing with a clear and present danger. Oh, we touched on yesterday the curse of Eve was constantly seeking after her husband. Yeah, that's a curse that comes, right? And by the way, now, sisters, can I be honest the other way? Right? I told you, Adam was just as responsible, if not more so, because the curses and them realizing their nakedness and all this didn't even happen until, right? Didn't even happen until Adam went ahead and joined, right? However, Eve, one of the things that was messed up was that Adam was perfect, right? Adam had told her the word. Adam had gave her the warning. Adam, right, had done all these things. And yet Eve, who was submitted to the same mission and was in agreement and was becoming one with her husband, Eve still decided to go outside of the mission. So once she went outside the mission, the Most High said, well, if you're not going to listen to the structure that I've had, where the husband should be in position to be the representation of myself, and if the husband's going to do what he's supposed to do, and you're still going to go ahead and do what you're not supposed to do, well, here's the curse that comes with it, is that you're not going to go ahead and get affection. Come on, somebody. Thank you, Apostle. Come on, somebody. I'm just trying to help you out. Praise Yah. Right? I'm just trying to help. Shoot the messenger if you want, but that's in the word. Thank you. Thank you for that word, Holy Spirit. Right? Like I'm just saying, if we got to be 100% whole or holy with this. Now, Yah is your husband. And you don't need, some of you don't even have a husband in between you and Yah. He's your spiritual husband. He should always be. And here it is that he's giving you a word and he's telling you that there's a danger. He said, you're dangerous to anything that's outside of my will because you're perfect. But he said, however, there's a danger right inside of you because you have free will. I have to have something that tempts you. Because if I don't have anything that tempts you, then it means that you have no free will. See, you got to learn how to arm yourself and make sure your muzzle is not pointed at the wrong thing when it's time to carry your weapon. You have to know that just because you have an M16, the M16 is never pointed at a person at all. It cannot be. If somebody's at the side where the M16 is hanging down at, then I need to figure out a way to put that M16 like this and carry it like this for a second. Or carry it by the butt and carry it, making sure that the muzzle is facing the ground. If somebody's at my left side, because I'm right-handed, so when I pull, right, when I pull up and get ready, this is how I'm gonna be. But I can't have it even when I'm just sitting like this, right? I shouldn't have my finger on the trigger unless it's necessary, anyways. But when I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden somebody comes over and we're talking and we're chatting and we're looking this way, if I'm not careful, I can easily have it pointed at their leg or something. And even though the safety might be on, and even though my finger's not on the trigger, there could be a malfunction in the gun, even if it's not a malfunction in myself. And so I need to make sure that everything's straight. It's still pointing at the ground. If anything, it's going to hit my feet. Hopefully my feet are not in position to be hit, but it'll hit me first before it hits anybody else. And see, you got to be careful. Yah will allow something in your life, because if he doesn't allow anything that tempts you, now he will not allow you to fall into temptation. Remember, temptation is a noun. It's a person, place, a thing. To tempt is an action. Temptation means you have fallen for the okie doke and you have gone ahead and done what you were tempted to do, right? But everybody must be tempted, or else you will never develop your will and be in his will and therefore operate in free will. See, and so if you're not careful, you can be armed and dangerous, but nobody's taught you how to make sure that you use this weapon of faith, this weapon of the word, this weapon of Yasta'al, this weapon of free will, this weapon of love, this weapon of kindness, this weapon of tithing, time, talent, effort, energy, gifts, resources. Yes, all those things. Nobody has taught you these things, or you are not using these things correctly, or you are not putting the safety on that weapon. See, your mouth is a weapon, and some of you never have the safety on. You just fire whenever, and you don't think, before I fire, let me see if what's in my heart is worth firing. Come on, somebody. Thank you for the love, right? You don't have the safety on your mouth. You need to learn how to put a safety on that thing so that you can live safely. See, some of you got beat up. Some of you got hurt. Some of you have had weapons fired at you, not because you are perfect in all your ways, but because you didn't realize that imperfection didn't need to escape your mouth. And now you ran into somebody that's just as crazy, if not crazier, and might be trained with them hands a little better than you are. And now you're sitting up there talking about the world this and the world that, but you were the problem. You should have shut your mouth. Come on, Minister Bertram. How you doing? And if Sister Jessica's listening, how you doing too? How you doing, Julie? Like there's some things to where you were the problem. How you doing, Sonic Love? How you doing, Jonas? There's some things that you need to figure out. Yeah, everybody has a choice. It's an 18, right? See, you got a safety, but you don't even use it. There's a safety on there because you might put your finger on the trigger by accident. You might fall. You might go through some things. And some people have hurt themselves with their own weapons because they didn't have a safety on. It is sad, some of the deaths that I've seen and heard about because of somebody didn't have the safety on. Everybody says, give me the gun. First things first, I've got to teach you about a safety. First things first, I've got to teach you. Watch this. Some people have busted themselves in the head because they don't know firing a weapon that's going to be too powerful. And so they're trying to hold it in front of their face or hold it in front of their face and don't even realize that thing's got a kick to it. And that thing is power. And you got a real powerful one. You don't just got a shotgun. You got a double barrel. Somebody done created a double barrel sawed off. And you talking about you about to shoot it in the range, not realizing that you're using buckshot and that thing about to spray and hit everybody. Don't even realize what kind of bullets you have in the gun. Is it bird shot? Is it buck? Haven't learned to make sure that you can actually go out and if you're hunting, do you know how to tell the difference in shapes and this and that and look for certain indications? Because you might have somebody that's in the area and not even realize that somebody's camouflaged so well that you might hit them. Can't even see the deception that somebody might have, and you might not want to fire on that person because they're so deceptive. They end up getting themselves messed up. How you doing, Lenora? Oh yeah. See, there's a way that seems right to you, but it doesn't mean that that's how you should do it. See, there's a way. If you've never shot a weapon before, I promise you, especially if I were to give you a really high power weapon, there's a way to hold it. That's why with my son, he hasn't had a real one yet, but my son, he's done, done stuff with a rifle, with an air gun, right? Hey, you got to have that right here, boy, bruh. He be trying. Oh yeah, he gets into it and stuff. He pretty decent with his aim and everything, but he start getting into it. He starts getting undisciplined, and he gets mad. But I say, I don't care if you're mad or not. You're not gonna fire this weapon. I don't care if it's an air gun, right? I don't care if it's air pressure or not. You're not going to fire a weapon. You're not, even with his toys, even with his water guns, unless we're in the gun with we're playing with water guns. It's slightly different. But even with guns, that he would have water guns walking around the house and just playing. I would say, what you doing with that? Are you actually, even in your play? Hey, play like somebody's there. If nobody's there, what are you supposed to do? Muzzle's supposed to be to the ground, Dad. Yes, every time, every time. Because I learned this, in life. His Shifu later on in his life. When he was born, he started taking Kung Fu at about 2.5 years old. His master, his Kung Fu master, Shifu, started teaching them and saying, hey, what did he start telling him? He started teaching, he started saying, you don't practice how to practice, you practice how to fight. Muscle memory, exactly. You don't practice how to practice, you practice how to fight. I wish I could tell some. See, if you practicing how to practice, if everything that you do is based off of practicing, and you're just like, oh yeah, well, somebody, if I do it right, like for example, if we're doing right, for those of you who are going to do Kung Fu Club with us, and your children are going to join up with us on 2:00 on Wednesdays and stuff, one thing you're not going to get away with, right? I know Solomon is going to be his thing, but I'm going to be there helping them. And one thing that when we watch your children, they're not going to get away with is doing this. Why do you think why do you think I won't let them get away with that? What do you think? If you somebody and you in a fight, even though we're practicing, why will you never get away with this? I'll very rarely have you do this. Why do you think? Now, you say, well, you jabbing, you doing a punch. Well, not just the thumb, right? Even though your thumb's not supposed to be like this, your thumb actually should be like this, right? But why, look what, put it this way, with my arm. Leave yourself open, kind of, sort of. But there's something I'm doing that you would never do in a fight. But people do it when they practice. You see sometimes boxers do it when they be, right? And they kind of do slow, right? When they're supposed to be going fast, but they'll be kind of just going slow for a while to try and get their muscles used to punching. The stiff arm, right? Not only just stiff arm, but the fact that they're leaving it out, right? Even when we're practicing, hands up, right? I kept this hand up. I got this hand out. This is a nice jab, nice form, but it's got to come back. It's got to come back, right? If I go cross, it's got to come back, right? It's got to come back. But some people, when they're practicing, they do what? They leave it out. And what happens is when they start to spar, they go like this and they leave it out. And then they start getting hit. And we got to stop everything. You got to wear your guard, of course, and stuff. We don't just have you spar. You got to make sure you're protected. But you start getting hit. And they're getting hit upside the head and getting hit everything. And it's like, because when you going like this, you're so used to thinking that when you're doing it, since you're by yourself, you're not thinking about that fighting is not against yourself. Oh, I just said the Holy Spirit. She just gave us a word right there. How you doing? How you doing, Toxic? Right. When you're fighting, you're not just fighting for yourself, right? When I play basketball, that's why when you used to play basketball and you were little, what you used to say? Oh man, game coming to the wire. Magic Johnson got the ball. Larry Bird's got the ball. Michael Jordan got the ball. LeBron's got the ball. Tracy McGrady's got the ball. Shaq's got the ball. Whatever. Time is going. All right. He backs down. He looks over. He does this. Okay. He shakes. He pulls back. He does a Hakeem shake. He pulls back. He shoots. He scores, right? Because even in your practice, in your mind, you were preparing yourself for an experience that would be more than just about you. My greatness. See, you got to start practicing what you preach, but also don't practice how to practice how to fight. Thank you, Shifu Shan, for that. Right, Shifu Shan of Dragon Academy over in where is that? Somewhere in Maryland, wherever city that is, right? Somewhere near New Carrollton, right? Give you credit for that. Don't practice how to practice. You practice how to fight. How you doing, Crate Dog Mom? Thanks for being on, right? And a lot of people, you practice as if you'll never be using this. And you've been taught certain things that you'll never use. So you're used to going to school and learning equations that you'll never use. You're used to going to your job and using stuff in there, but you'll never use it outside of your job, will you? Right? In your warehouse, this is where this goes. This is where this goes. This is how you lift it. This is how you do this. But you're not going to use that anywhere else. And you're not really going to use it for your society unless you're going to use that to build for your society. We're used to practicing things that we're never going to actually use, or practicing as if we'll never have to use it. And can I be honest with you? Many of you are practitioners when it comes to the word of Yah, but you don't use it because you practice how to practice. You're very great at being able to tell everybody the practice of it, but your life is off. Oh, I'm sorry. Trigger warning. I apologize. Really, I'll apologize. I don't know if I'm really sorry about it because you need to hear it. I've had to hear it, and I'm empathized with you because I've had to go through that, because you can practice something very well in a very sheltered and closed off and safe environment. Right? You can practice it very well. How you doing, MIT Jenny? You can practice something really well, but when it comes time to use it and execute, this is why you have to have sparring sessions, so that if the day comes that you have to fight somebody, you haven't just practiced how to practice, but you've actually practiced how to fight. How you doing, Brother Henry? You hear what I'm saying? And a lot of us have gotten great at prayer until it's time to use prayer in a situation. A lot of people have gotten great at faith until it's time to use works to verify if your faith is what you say it is. A lot of people have talked a lot of trash about men ain't this and women aren't this until it comes time to actually see, how do you treat men and how do you treat women? Thanks for sharing it, Michael. And how you doing? Thanks for being part of the community, Ismail. Right? You hear what I'm saying? You have learned how to practice. You are great in practice, but you are not great in fighting. You are not great in execution. Why? Because you practice how to practice, never practicing how to fight. And that's why a lot of you don't like laws or rules or regulations. How you doing, Julie? Or different things, or somebody teaching you, or having to sit at somebody's feet or learn from somebody else. Or you always hear everybody, I can learn on my own. I don't need anybody to tell me this. I don't need anybody to explain. I don't need to check in with anybody. That's what we had a word a little while ago. You need a pastor. Why do we say? And I said, even if I'm not your pastor, but I told you, even if you don't have a pastor, somebody pastors you. It's the same thing as when you need a vision. Why? Because if you don't have a vision, somebody got you living by one. You said when you attempt to control your mouth after praying about it, the very day gets 100 times worse. Yeah, because now we got to figure out the activation. Thank you, Henry. Appreciate it. Right? I'm just trying to tell you. I'm trying to help you out. See, you become very great at practicing things. Oh yeah. See, watch this. You practice all the time. Yeah, you know what? You can tell everybody, if we would come together and if we would get this land and if we would go ahead and set some time stuff aside for ourselves and if we would teach our children, and here you are, your children still go to school and they're not getting any kind of homeschooling whatsoever. But remember, we talked about you need a pastor. Somebody pastoring you. Whether you think I should be your pastor, I'm here to tell you, somebody's pastoring you. Oh, that's not true at all. Your teacher pastored you. Your teacher pastored you more than your parents did. You saw your teacher more than you saw your parents and thought that it was righteous. After you finish seeing your teacher more, and thank you for the love. How you doing, Paul? And once after that, and how you doing, one Kadesh, right? After that, you grew to a certain age. And then summer would hit, and you thought it was more important to get pastored by your summer school teacher. So you got, or summer school camps or counselors or whatever. So you have more experience with other people teaching you. Some of us, we didn't even see our parents. We had straight teachers, camp people, and then we would see each other and we would teach each other. Doing craziness, like we used to go down the hill. There's this huge steep hill. We just called it the hill. And you would go down the hill, and when it was wintertime, we would go down the hill and we would find cardboard boxes and stuff to slide down in the snow because very few of us ever had enough money to actually get a real sled, right? So we would just go and get a box. And it would take us a long time. We would have to search sometimes for weeks, but we'd find a box and we would try to go down. And here's the wild part. We would go down, but then to make it fun, instead of just going down the hill that, could tear you up, break bones and everything, we would actually go in between the trees. There was a side of the hill that they let trees grow on, right? And so we would try to go between the trees and the roots and stuff, and we would pop up and the box would break apart, and then here you are rolling down a hill. And I'm talking about you could be rolling down a hill for 30 seconds. And if you survived, and if you didn't have anything broken, if you didn't have any concussions, you laughed and everybody laughed, right? There's something wrong. Just because you made it through something doesn't mean that there was any intelligence in that. Right? Children sometimes, especially little boys, we have some issues, right, with stuff like that. But just because, look, we used to play football, and in the middle of the football field, we actually had a field. We sometimes would play in the street, and sometimes they would try to even show how tough they were. They wanted to play tackle in the street. That would only last a couple tackles, and then people would move to the field. But then we would have the football field. In the middle of the football field, you had this big, how you have like a sewer that kind of pops up. It's like lifted from the ground in case there's a flood. So it was like a square, and it was concrete, and then on top of it was a steel, sewer opening, right? And so we would play football on it, and sometimes somebody might get tackled on it or try to dive for the football because they're trying to show how brave they are, and they would land on it. There are people who I saw that would have the collarbones sticking up. Can't play for months, can't come outside, do anything, but they were tough. And a lot of us took that type of mindset into regular life, and we watch sports and we get on people when they don't have that type of mindset. I'm here to tell you, it is not wise, unless we're at actual war. It is not something that should be applauded that a football player will be this close, that Robert Griffin III, whose knee basically got really jacked up, still went out there and played, and he loses a career. Now everybody want to talk bad about him and say that he wasn't real, that he wasn't this, that he never even had a chance to develop. It's not smart that he was put in that position, or that his father and him put him in that position later on, tried to change things up. But it's not smart that we would see him out there and say that if he's not willing to hurt himself, that he's not worthy. It's not. I know. It's gonna mess with you because we come from Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor, he's supposed to break Joe Theismann's leg, and we're supposed to say, "Look at that hit," and cheer it with our little flags. Yeah, they didn't allow him to grow into position. But I'm just saying, it's not smart. It's not intelligent. See, y'all want to talk bad about KD now and how Kevin Durant and how he's got all these injuries and stuff. But Kevin Durant, it wasn't smart for him to come back and play for the championship. Try to help his team, and he looked great for the first few minutes he was in. But then you could see when he was playing, When that Achilles rolled up, it was gruesome. You could see it through the leg. When that Achilles rolled up, they teach you, there's even something when you sweep a certain way, when you're fighting somebody and use your leg and you sweep a certain way, and I come back with full force with my I actually learned this, not even Kung Fu, I learned this in the military, right? But you can sweep a man, hit him in the back of his ankle, his Achilles is coming, or his Achilles gonna roll up. Right? Like, and and he was out there, he shouldn't have been. All of a sudden his stuff rolled up. That was the last time he played. And then everybody's KD's punk. He doesn't want to come out there. They don't really need him anyway. They could have won championships without him. And then all of a sudden his Achilles rolled up. And now people are walking with him off the court because they know. Steph Curry's looking around like, oh, he knows. Andre Iguodala's going to the back with him because he knows. But he shouldn't have had to force himself in the first place. What is the reward? What was his reward for that? Now, somebody said, well, Kevin Durant still made millions and this and that. Okay, fine. You're not Kevin Durant. You're not making millions. You're not playing the championship. When you go out there and you're busting yourself for somebody else who doesn't care about you, they're willing to talk about you like a dog to try and talk you into playing, even though you should have never played. Knowing that you're probably going to leave them anyways, because they could really care less if you were there anyways. They already got out of you what they needed. Why are you still playing? You said street football left you with permanent scars. Eventually, you said it wasn't really smart, especially within your school clothes. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, we're still playing for people who don't even really need you. They needed you to build something off of you. Now they done got in the new stadium. That's what happened, right? Or the new whatever, the new Coliseum, the new whatever they call it, new basketball stadium. And they got in there. Now they don't need you. That's what the owner was looking at, is how much money can I get? That's what the owner was looking for. I see you, MIT Jenny, right? That's what the owner was looking for, was how much money can I get? You got me what's there. You got me what's necessary. You got all the people that are going to be, because we're moving it from Oakland to a better place. And the people that are in the better place, you help to sell it. So now when we open up, you can go wherever you want now. Go ahead to Brooklyn. We know Kyrie ain't really going to do much, but you go over there and get your little team together and play basketball, because that's what it's all about for you. You just want to have fun. But we going to make real money over here. Watch this. Same team later on. Win another championship later on down the road. All of a sudden next year, Jordan Poole not doing that well after Draymond Green punches him in his face. Everybody sides with Draymond because that's their boy, but he punched him in his face, knocked him out. He doesn't have his faculties about him for the rest of the year. And he's mad that he's on a team where it's acceptable to go ahead and punch him in the face, and he's just supposed to be a great teammate. He doesn't do that well. No problem. Go ahead, go somewhere. You already helped us get a championship. Steph wasn't healthy. You helped us when he wasn't healthy. Now Steph's going to be around. Looks like he's going to be all right. Go ahead. You can go ahead to Washington. Go ahead and get you a little bit of money. Bling, bling. Career gone. Amen. Misplaced loyalty. How you doing, Pastor Hamilton? But go ahead, get your little bling, bling, Chris Rock had a joke a long time ago. He said, y'all think that Shaq is wealthy. He's like, Shaq ain't wealthy. Now, Shaq is wealthy nowadays. But he was saying back then, Shaq ain't wealthy. He's like, Shaq is rich. Shaq is rich. The one who owns the team, and really we could say owns Shaq, he's wealthy. He says, go, here you go. Here you go, Shaq. Buy yourself some rims. Bling, bling. Now, Shaq was actually very smart with his money, and he was raised by a great stepfather, but father, and showed him how to make sure you save money. And so now Shaq has a bunch of money to do whatever he feels like doing. How you doing, King? But see, you see what I'm saying? Like, you're out here caping up for people who could care less about you. They're going to get everything they can out of you. This is why this is different for a lot of you. And it takes a little while. A lot of you say, I was watching for months, or I was looking at you off and on for years, or I didn't like you at first when I heard what you were saying, or, I started paying attention, or I had to get the research, or you'll text me or email me, hey, please give me this to look at and this and that, or whatever, because you got to verify, because you come from a lot of places to where you get a lot of this stuff and they practice, and it's really great in practice environments. But we're not talking about just practice environments. See, we're talking about sovereignty. We're talking about stuff where you got to be able to go fight. Don't just practice how to practice how to fight. You become dangerous in this. There's supposed to be a change in you. How you doing, Apostle Jabril? There's supposed to be a change in you. This is not business as usual. This is not everything should fit in. Watch this. If a majority, can I say this to you? It's gonna mess with you, son, but that's okay. I'm here to mess with somebody's theology today, right? If that's all right with you, even if it's not, you might want to scroll. I'm giving you a warning, right? Right. I'm here. I'm here to. I just want to give you a little warning. Stop looking at majority and start looking for minority. Majority owners usually look for minority stock in something. Or let me put it like this. Majority owners usually look for money where the minority looks for money. That's the way it works. You hear what I'm saying? People who make the majority of the wealth are people who have the minority of the mindset. So if you go and everybody in your churches agree on the same thing, I know this is going to sound wild because it doesn't sound like kingdom to you, but I'm not preaching church. I'm preaching kingdom. Your church might have kingdom in it. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I'm just going to give you kingdom. The majority of your churches don't have a minority mindset. Now, see if somebody says, I don't want to be minority. Not everybody who says to me, not the majority who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. Uh-oh. That's of course you can ask questions. Yeah, of course. How you doing, Yvette? See, a lot of you have I need you to recognize, see, a lot of you are carrying a majority mindset, even when it concerns spirituality. People just go, oh, see, there's no evidence of God. Do you know that God is only one way of looking at the Most High, and it's not even the biblical way, because God is written in later, because God is a Germanic deity. It doesn't even have anything to do with the culture. Alacham is different than God, like God is different than a deist. A deist is slightly different than deities. Deities are going to be different than your regis. Your regis are going to be different than Neters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. On Yom Kippur and Anansi are similar, but they are not the same. Gianyame could be a bunch of different things, but when I say Gianyame in my tribe, in my culture, we're talking about Yahweh Elohim, right? Like people say Baal as if Baal always been the same thing. Baal used to be the word that somebody would use for Elohim, right? Because the order of Melchizedek is important. Well, guess what? The person in the language he spoke, when Abraham gave a tithe to Melchizedek, guess who he called Yahweh, or the title he gave Yahweh? The title that he would call Yahweh, because he didn't speak our language, was actually called Baal or Baal. But over time, people started saying, well, there's Baal in the water and there's Baal in the trees. Well, why don't we just say there's a Baal of the water and a Baal of the trees? So some of you will hear somebody down the road say something crazy, even though to you, because you haven't recognized it and you don't think about it, and you haven't practiced how to fight. You just practice how to practice. You go through the thing of not actually listening to what somebody's saying, to study, to show yourself approved, bring it before Elohim, that you can need to not be a workman, that need to not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. You just listen to a bunch of truths but never divide the word of truth. You are always ever learning but never coming into the knowledge of the truth. So therefore what will happen is somebody says, well, Satan is the same as God. How you say that? Well, Satan is the same as Baal. Kind of, sort of, but what's the correlation? Well, you know that Baal is actually what some people in the Bible worship, and the Bible had no problem with it. So therefore, Satan is Baal. That's the trick of the enemy. And you're like, do you not recognize there's on your money in God we trust? So if you believe there's a God in the Bible, are you saying that the people who believe in the dollar are saying in God we trust? And you say, of course we do. That's foolishness, because if you know about what Washington, D.C. is, George Washington is your father God in a Masonic manner. So when you say in God we trust, it has nothing to do with what you think God is in the first place. But once again, you haven't learned how to practice how to fight this thing out. You've learned how to practice how to practice. So we have a lot of people who are very great at apologetics and debates and all these different things, but they're always learning, but never coming into the knowledge of the truth. They keep telling you about multiverses, but they can't prove to you how to even live in a universe yet, because they're very great about coming up with all these different things, but they cannot actually come into the knowledge of the truth. They are ever learning, but never coming into the knowledge of the truth. You said Christianity. Well, Christianity, once again, everything has a title, you could say, right? I'm not saying it's just a title. I'm trying to tell you every title comes into a culture. So, for example, Cristianos is a title that was given to a people when they were trying to mix iron with clay, or mix the word of Yah with the Bible. And people who were considered to be Cristianos at first, whether you were a Bible believer or a pagan or a Gentile or whatever, a Druid, etc., they looked at people that were Christians and they thought that they were not just simple-minded, they thought that they had mental health issues, because they would mix and match so many different things and then try to sprinkle some Jesus on it. They were like, that's dangerous. Even if they didn't believe in what we believed in, they would still say, that's dangerous. Right? They would still say, why are you doing that? Right? They would still say, we don't like that. That's why people get really mad. Witches get really mad at Christians around Christmas time, because they're like, you biting our stuff. This is stuff that we do. We use the Yule log. You don't even know what it's for. Right? Mistletoe is supposed to be for people to have sex underneath. That's why you kiss somebody under the mistletoe. What you using our stuff for? Right? We drug in the trees because we were afraid that at the end of the winter solstice that there wasn't going to be enough light outside. So we bring something that had light, and you had to get it out your house by a certain time. That's why a lot of people get mad when Christmas trees are still up. Right? Like, so they get mad, they get upset, they get frustrated. Why are you using our stuff? You said, can somebody be a Rasta and believe in Jesus? I mean, somebody can be a Rasta, and I guess if you're a Rastafari, as far as all the way in the belief system, I'm not, but I have family members and stuff that are. You have to start talking about Haile Selassie, and if that's the case, you should be thinking about the fact that you're already living in the 1,000-year reign, kind of, sort of, right? If that's the road you're going down. That's not my personal cultural belief system, but it is what it is. Thank you for the love, appreciate it. But Jesus is half man, half Zeus. That's where it comes from, Jesus. And somebody will say, no, it's Jesus. It's a transliteration of Yeshua. And it's like, no, it's not just a transliteration of Yeshua or Joshua, because we know what the daughter of Zeus is, Democesus. We know what the horse of Zeus is. That's Pegasus. We know what Zeus is. That's Zeus. How in the world did we get to Jesus and now it's just a transliteration? But that's why you have to be careful about transliteration or translations. That Shane is asking rabbit hole questions. Oh, well, it's a fair question. It is a rabbit hole question, of course, right? So if I'm gonna be in the half man, half Zeus, that's called a demideus or a demigod. Now, the reason that nickname was even given, even though it wasn't used once it was originally given for hundreds of years after, but the reason why that nickname even was given was because Yehoshua was speaking to Pontius Pilate. Pontius Pilate found no fault in him. He had a dream. His wife had a dream. He believed that his kingdom was not of this world. And so he was like, well, in his culture, what does that mean? He said that, therefore, you must be going back to Olympus. You must be going back to Zeus. How you doing, spiritual prospect? Shalom. So therefore, he called him half man, half Zeus. You're a demideus. You're going back home. In his mind, that's how it worked. Does that mean it was correct? No. But I get it out of the culture where he was at the time. He at least gave more credit to him than the Israelites did at the time. So even when we hear that, but once again, we're not armed with that. We're dangerous, but because we haven't seen what's happening and going on, we're not armed with that knowledge. So we're sitting up here letting people tell us all this stuff, and it's very clear. Matter of fact, when you look in the Bible and it talks about the cross, his name was written 3 times: once in Hebrew, once in Greek, once in Latin, because Israel was not it was not a nation anymore, right? We were a nation of people, but we were under siege. 9 tribes, and some of one of the tribes had left already centuries before. The only people that were left were basically Benjamin, Judah, and some of Levi. And other people that lived there were not Israelites as well. Even some of the people in the Sanhedrin were not Israel. Even the king of Israel was King Herod. King Herod was a gens from the family of Caligula and Nero, right? Herod is not an Israelite. Herod's temple was built, but it was not a temple that even the Most High wanted to be built. He never authorized it. So even when you're talking about the temple stuff in there, how dare you turn my father's house into a den of thieves? It goes deeper than just they were selling some stuff. Herod had literally built something to try and get the Israelites and those who were playing Israelite in the Sanhedrin to be able to bow down to him and give him all this stuff or whatever. And so to make him happy, he built him a temple and he said, go tinker with it. Same thing we just talked about with Shaq. Shaq doesn't have the money. It's the owner who has the money who pays Shaq. And then he says, bling, bling, Shaq, go get yourself some rims, right? And so he did the same thing with the Israelites. I got the wealth and stuff. Oh, y'all want a little temple and stuff? Okay, well, that's not what y'all wants for you, but I know in your heart, y'all wish y'all could have a temple. And people before, they kept tearing your temple down. So you'll think that I'm all that if I give you a place to go ahead and play Israel. So let me go ahead and let y'all play Israel here real quick. Y'all like it? You see the Play-Doh? I built this little thing and everything. And Yehoshua comes in there and says, why are you trying to turn my father's house? The word house means family. Why are you messing around with my father's family? We just only thinking about the temple. He says, you messing with my father's house. And you are supposed to become the temple. These people, you playing around with them with this fake little temple or whatever. And the last temple should never been built. And even this temple, yes, even this very temple that you see, not a stone will be left upon a stone because it was never allowed in the first place. But if you're not armed with that information, see, so his name was written up by Pontius Pilate. His name was written up 3 times. Once in Hebrew, right? That would have been Yehoshua. Once in Greek and once in Latin. In Greek, it would have been Yesus and Yesu. So he put his real name in Hebrew. And he even said, he put it up there. He said, hey, put here in Hebrew, here is Yehoshua, or here is Yashua Malak Avla, or here is, or Yashua Malak Yahavada'an. Here is Yashua, King of the Hebrews. And or King of the Jews, we would say, right? And then secondly, in Greek, he put it up in Greek, and then he put it up in Latin, but he put the nicknames up in Greek and Latin so that nobody, no matter what language you spoke, everybody would comprehend exactly what was going on, and nobody could say that they didn't know who this was. In any culture, in any language that was around, everybody had to realize who this was that was up here. Remember, even when you look at historical documentations of Pontius Pilate is looked at as either he had 2 warnings that we basically see about him as a governor of Israel. He was fired after the second one. The first warning was, hey, there was this big thing that happened over this Yeshua guy, like, and you didn't squash all the beef and you couldn't quell everything and you can keep everybody from being all up in arms about it. And it took us a while to get this in pocket. So if you don't get this back in order, so if you don't get these things back in order again, we're coming to get you. Second time was when you had people that were starting to get into guerrilla warfare. Israelites were tired of being under Rome. And so they started literally like, instead of using, they didn't have guns, but they would use knives and stuff. And they would be walking up on Centurion guards and on Roman guards and all this stuff. And they would literally be stabbed. They would stab them. Guerrilla warfare. And then he got fired when it got to be too much. So we know what it is, right? Or maybe we don't. But see, we might be dangerous, not even realize how dangerous we were, to where it even got so where people in Rome who agreed with the Most High eventually had to lose their position and their title and what made them all that, but were willing to do so because they believed in something that we don't even believe in. But that's how dangerous they were. How dangerous are you that you can get somebody else outed and fired because you are who you're supposed to be? This happens to you on your jobs. How dangerous are you that you can show up and just do what you're supposed to do and others will lose their job because you're so great? People hate you because when you show up, you live what you live. You don't just practice how to practice, you practice how to fight, you practice how to live. Doctors are practitioners. Problem is, though, is that doctors practice on you just for practice. Many of them, and very few of them are actually into practicing on you so you would live. This is how you can have somebody come in and say, I don't feel comfortable with myself. And somebody says, I'm going to go ahead and relieve you of your breast. I'm going to go ahead and relieve you of who you are, vagioplasty. Phaleoplasty, I think, is the other one. I'm going to relieve you. I'm going to add something to you. I'm going to make a hole in you. I'm going to have it to where you're going to be urinating out of multiple orifices and not your actual orifice that you're supposed to, because it doesn't work anymore. Doctors had no shame because they don't practice how to actually cure. They just practice how to practice. Doctors don't cure. Doctors don't use medicine. Doctors practice medicine. But might I say, this is why woe unto these preachers to do so. See, many preachers, they don't use the word they to help you to grow. They practice the word to help you to just be practiced. So I wonder if I preach like this, how many people will come next Sunday? That's somebody who practices how to practice, but never practices for righteousness. I wonder if I play music to say, I've done this before as a musician. I had to get out of it. I had to start just focusing on Yah, because it's a very strange thing. I don't know what it is about. Well, I do know what it is about the spirits and stuff. But when it comes to music at the time, I didn't know what it was. But I knew I could play a sermon. I could play music. And before the service started, I could have people in tears. Now, I thought it was me. I had to get out of that. But when I first started coming into playing in churches and stuff, I realized real quick I could make somebody cry. I could look at mama in them, and I could say, she probably used to like be in her heyday with his music about 1960, 1970. She don't get no praise. She don't get no praise and worship that she like. And I would play something, I would see mama cry. Now later on, I would realize that mama of the church, she needs that because she needs to be met where she is too. So then I would start doing it so that she would get what's lifted. So in the middle of a song, we might add something that mama and them used to do so that she could get out her seat too. She liked the new stuff, but nobody ever fed her where she was. See, so I started, instead of just practicing how to practice and learning how to manipulate and learning that I could manipulate and learning I could make this pastor sound great or sound bad, or learning that, I could give parts, or I could remix something on the spot, or I could jump to this, or people would be so impressed. When I started saying, how does the spirit move through me and through these fingers that are hitting the ivory, that are touching the organ, that are touching the Hammond B3, that's hitting those drums, and that's plucking on those strings and doing all the stuff when it's playing on those instruments, on those horns. When I started realizing was coming through people's voice, when I started realizing there's a holiness that is attached to this, then it became a whole different experience. See, I was dangerous, right? But I wasn't armed and dangerous. I wasn't armed with the spirit yet. But when I realized the spirit, I used to play and I would look up the whole time. And I started having people come up to me and saying weird stuff when I was just playing music. It was this weird thing that popped up where people, it was weird to me at first, but I got it. But I felt really uncomfortable when people say it. I would have brothers and sisters coming up to me, the brothers that were the hardest, the OGs, the people coming off the street, and they'd be like, bruh, when you was playing, bruh, this gonna sound weird, but I'm gonna just tell you real talk, like you was glowing on the keys. I'd be like, I was glowing. You know what I'm saying? But they were saying, like, they would tell me, they'd be, and I was like, wow, something about me is different than before. It's not just I'm doing stuff and people getting, goosebumps, but people are actually feeling change in my calling. And so I made a promise to the Most High. I thought I had a really promise in this already, but I didn't realize what I was doing and what I wasn't doing, even when it was ignorant. And I started realizing, you know what? I said, yeah, I promise you that everything that I do is going to be about doing it as the Holy Spirit says. And everything is going to be about your word. And it doesn't matter if I'm playing music. It doesn't matter if I'm spending money. It doesn't matter if I'm preaching a word. It doesn't matter if I'm in a vehicle. It doesn't matter if it's clothes that I wear, whatever. Everything that I do, I want it to be acceptable in your sight. If you get the glory from it, then I'm all right. If nobody notices, how you doing, Brother Anthony? If nobody notices it, I'm all right too. How you doing, Webb Lewis? Thanks for being part of the community. If nobody realizes, how you doing, Mike? Nice, thanks. Yeah, people make tons of money to practice and experiment, but practicing for practicing's sake instead of for healing. And so I started realizing in everything, in anything I play and anything I do, it needs to give glory. And even if it makes me look foolish for a little bit, even if I got to try and use technology, I'm not even that great at using it. I'll try. I'll do exactly what I'm supposed to do because it needs to bring glory to the Most High. And when I got to that place, that's when I started seeing that my personal life changed because I had to make a personal decision. And when my personal life changes and the temple of Yah changes and it's acceptable for Yah to live inside, then anybody that comes to me that has that same kingdom in them, we have a different communication. So there's singers that I played for and stuff like that, and they are like I played with some pretty big names, right? And they're great at what they do. And yet, even though they would be like, yeah, everything was great, I just sit there in my spirit, I'd be like, man, that didn't feel right. But some no-name person who y'all would think couldn't sing or whatever, open their mouth, and the Holy Spirit would say, the Holy Spirit would say, operate like this. And we would have an hour of praise and worship on the same song it couldn't stop. And the word didn't even get preached because it was already preached, right? And we would have that type of situation happen because we were in tune. Now we were led by the Spirit. We were led by the Spirit. And I'm not somebody that's the person that believes that because you've had your I'm not the person that believes that we should always change the program or be like, well, this is our program, but the Holy Spirit comes through, because I'm like, you shouldn't even write a program, but the Holy Spirit is not involved. So I'm not that guy, right? I'm not the guy that believes I'm gonna ask Elder Maya to preach, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna just be like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and preach today. Now the Holy Spirit, I can misread some things. I'm not perfect, but I'm not that person, right? I'm not gonna be the person that says, hey, Minister Joseph, go ahead and preach a message, and then all of a sudden I decide at the end, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and preach, because then something was wrong. Either I'm lying about the Holy Spirit led me to ask Minister Joseph, or I wasn't in tune with the first place and should have just never asked him in the first place. So I'm not that guy, but I'm just trying to tell you that sometimes, yes, that will happen. And when I've seen it happen and stuff, it came from a place of where I realized, see, when I became armed with the Holy Spirit, that's a different kind of being armed. I was dangerous before. I could still be a danger to the kingdom of the satanic kingdom, the world's kingdom. I could still be dangerous to that, even though I didn't know how to be used by the Holy Spirit. But man, when I started being led, how you doing, y'all's child? Can I say it again? When I started being led, how you doing, DD Will? When it was about being led by the Holy Spirit and not just doing whatever I felt like doing, that was a game changer. When I started being led, how you doing, off grid? When I started being led by the words that I speak, I started trying to figure out why is it, at first I used to say to myself all the time, because everybody else said, well, you always speaking too long and you're doing this. And look, I could speak a sermon and I could do a sermon 15 minutes. If they give me 30 minutes, I wasn't that guy that would go over 30 minutes. If you give me 30 minutes, I give you 25. You give me 15, I can do it in 13. No problem. You give me 5 minutes, I can give it to you in one. With the whole, right. And have it ready. No problem. Come off the dome, all that stuff. I had the hit knowledge. But people were always like, yeah, you like to go on these things when we have conversations, when people ask questions or whatever. You're somebody that's always giving so much information, this and that or whatever. And you shouldn't be giving information. Then there was a pastor. And I still, if you guys see me on Facebook and I share this thing that they talk about where they give out food and stuff in DC, the pastor who's over it in glasses and bald head, if you ever see him, that's Pastor Curtis. That's my boy. And I haven't seen him in a couple of years, actually, but that's my boy. Still talk back and forth and we encourage each other. And he came to me one time during a church service, one of the last few church services I was in. And it's still his spiritual mother, even though she don't really talk to me anymore because of something, but I'll leave it alone. She actually, we're cool now, but we don't really talk. But anyways, he's under her still. And but I was at her service and I was preaching, and I only went, and I say only because I know I can go a long time. I only went an hour, but basically I could have went as long as I wanted. I went an hour. There was some stuff, whatever, and people were getting changed, and there was some stuff where people were asking questions and stuff. And Pastor Curtis came up to me, and he said, "Look, I'm here to tell you, bro. Like, he's like, you called, and he said you're a pastor. And he said, but you're about to do some like evangelizing. He's like, I almost see it like motivational speaking. Like, you need to go somewhere." And he said, you need to speak. And when you speak a word, you need to be ready, like, to be somewhere that's not really attached to this. He's like, some of us got to be here and do this and that. He was like, you got to be somewhere where you're going to be separate. He was telling me, like, you're dangerous to this. Like, it's not that you're wrong. He was telling me you're dangerous. He wasn't saying it in a bad way. He was telling me straight up, like, you're dangerous, Kofi. Like, you can't really be here like that. Right. But what you can do, right? What you can do, what you can be about is you can go ahead and go somewhere and let Yah use you to where there aren't some of these, um, you know, this prohibitive type thought where you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't talk about it, you can't talk, but you got to still give a word. And it's like, so I can't do this, I can't talk about this, I can't go deep, I got to keep it simple, I can't go long, I can't do that, but I got to give something that people need to help people. But I can only do it once a week, but I'm not really the pastor, so I can't really do it once a week. I got to do it whenever you allow me to, and when you allow me to, I can. You see, and he told me, he was like, you're gonna have to go somewhere. And at first I was kind of like on the fence about it. I was starting to do stuff online more and more and more. I was already doing it for years, but I was starting to really pick up. I was starting to do live sessions. It wasn't quite where we were preaching the word consistently. It was more just teaching and teaching about multiple things and being an activist, not necessarily a political activist, but an activist for our people. And I was being strict about making sure I was coming through a prism of the word of Yah, but it wasn't quite where we are today. But around that time, he was telling me, he was like, look, you're not going to be able to do what you're called to do and still be here. He was telling me that you're dangerous, but you're not armed yet. See, you're dangerous and everybody looking at you bad, but see, you're not going to be able to see what can it, I'm a to that. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Watch this. You, if I walk into an airport, right? I can get through a certain point with weapons and everything, but if I'm going to have the weapons go through customs and everything, I've got to have permission to do so, right? But you get to a certain place where you're not supposed to really carry weapons on you unless you're allowed. Usually, you got to be an air marshal, something like that, right? Maybe Secret Service, but obviously that's in a different area of thought, right? I can't just bring a weapon anywhere. There are certain places where my weapon's allowed, but I can't bring a weapon everywhere, right? You can't just bring your weapon anywhere you go. Even in open carry places, there are places that you can't carry a weapon inside. Even in open carry places, there are times to where you shouldn't just be bringing your weapon around children, right? There are some places where you can bring them wherever, right? There are some places you can have them in the club. There's some places you can't have it at the club, right? There's some places where it might be lawful to bring your weapon in the club. However, the club might say, well, this is a private establishment and we don't allow those weapons in the club. How you doing, Brenda? Thanks for being part of the community, right? And so you got to realize that, yes, you are called to go and preach your word and do this, but I'm here to tell you, you will not be accepted. There's something that you have that you're armed with, who you are, certain things that you're armed with, right? Certain things that you love, certain things that Yah has given unto thee to say that this is going to help you as the man or the woman of Yah. They will not be accepted in certain places. You hear what I'm saying? Right? There's certain things that you carry and certain things that you are that are not going to be accepted where you're about to go in. It's not that you don't have the weapon. It's not that you don't have the gift. It's not that you don't have the grace. It's not that you don't have the charisma. It's not that you don't have the love. It's not that you don't have the opportunity, but there are going to be some places to where people don't accept that weapon. And I'm not talking about we just talked about this on, I'm laughing because we went over this in minister in training, or our first minister in training thing for this new group on Saturday. I'm not just talking about this with people who are outside of the assembly, outside of the camp, outside of the church, outside of your family. I'm talking about people that are right there. Yes, who you come from, who they realize. And they don't want that mess in there. They look at it as mess. They don't want that dangerous weapon in there. Who you are DNA wise, who you are spiritually, who you are generationally, who you are as far as your culture, when it shows up, it's not allowed. And you're going to have to start making decisions as to how often. Sometimes you got to go somewhere, and yes, you got to go in there, and you can't bring all of you in there. And you can't be upset about it because it's not set up for you to bring all of you in there. It hasn't been set up like that since the foundation of their country, of their corporation, of their private organization. That being said, how often are you going to keep going places where you can't bring what protects you? Thanks for being part of the community cosmos. We got to ask ourselves, how much longer are we going to continue to pretend that it is wise to go to places that we cannot bring things that protect us? Now, once again, I'm not talking about just a physical weapon. I'm talking about watch this, who I am, my language, my culture, it protects me. And I say this all the time, I'm not talking about segregation. I'm talking about separation. In your mind, right? Because people cannot look like, there's some people that look like us that should be separated from us too, because their mind is not ready for this. How you doing, Big Roy? Like, there's a lot of people, not all skin folk is kinfolk now. Not all Israel is Israel now. Not everybody who was raised. So you got this weird thing. You think that you're going to go over to Ghana and everybody in Ghana is going to believe exactly what you believe, as if they didn't have colonization themselves. You know what I'm saying? You got this weird philosophy that once you go to Zulu land, everybody's going to believe everything that you believe, as if they didn't deal with somebody taking their culture to a certain extent themselves. Just because they speak certain languages, because not all their languages still exist either, but just because they speak certain languages still doesn't mean that they still speak highly of themselves. And thank you for the love. Appreciate it. I'm just trying to help you. How you doing, MIT Jelani? I'm just trying to help you. You better realize that you better watch this. How about we say it like this? When you go somewhere, you need to be sent. Not sent by Pastor Kofi. Although I appreciate it when y'all call me and text me, email me. Hey, I'm about to do this. Do you think it's all right? Hey, no problem. That's the position I carry, and I should be able to help you through. Ultimately, you're going to have to make the decision, unless it's something where I'm like, no, that's dangerous. I need to tell you about that. Stop that right now, right? But I appreciate it. But you're going to have to walk through those doors. But hear what I'm saying. You need to go where you're sent, because Yah's not about to keep sending you places and you're not protected. You keep going back to the same places that you said you left because you felt harmed and unprotected and you had church hurt, but you keep going back there talking about, well, if I go back this time, it's going to be different. No. I want to make sure I go somewhere and, hey, you know what? At least there's some people that I can meet up with, even though I know they're talking about the wrong thing. At some point, I'm not trying to tell you what you need to do, when you need to do it. Lean on the Holy Spirit. She will reveal when it's time. I'm just trying to tell you, at some point, you're going to stop going to places where you're not protected. Amen. MIT Stephen, appreciate you, bro. At some point, may I say something? Even we talked about this a while ago. I don't know how, it's somewhat soon, what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever. The purpose of being lonely, or the purpose of being alone. A lot of people feel lonely, but they don't realize there's a purpose in being alone. Before I can get into somebody else's society, what happens is I need to make sure that first I come back to myself. I'm alone long enough to be able to know what I need. And then it's easier for me to get with people who can provide what I need. Can I help you today? Right? I just, where everybody knows your name, trying to hit that cheers thing. Yeah. Right. I just want to help you a little bit. See, so you might not realize that one of the reasons why you feel alone is because you are alone, so to speak. Now, Yah's with you, so we're never alone, but you feel alone because you're coming out of something, and you've got to be what? Salvation. You got to get back to your original intent. And some of you, because you've never been alone before, at least not long enough, you've never actually seen, who am I? They keep talking about Yah is in me, but I don't even know who I am. How can I know who's in the temple, and I don't even have access to the temple? Here I am walking around with a whole temple, and I can't even get inside. Yah is saying I'm on the inside, but I don't even know enough about me or who I come from or where I come from. He's saying I need you to be alone long enough. This is, remember we talked about this? Kemet, you're in Kemet, you become slaves. Your own family members have enslaved you because they're afraid, because they're seeing your growth and they know who you are. They know you're dangerous. And Yah says, I need my people to be armed and dangerous. What does he say? He said, look, Pharaoh, they could even stay and be slaves. He gave them a choice at first. He said, look, I'll give you the choice. If you want to go down this road, I'm going to make your heart hard. I'm going to allow you to go ahead and get to where you're going to go. But I'm giving you a choice from the beginning. Let my people go, not even 100% go, not forever. He said, let my people go into the wilderness, 3 days journey. That's a 60-mile journey, and let them stay there and worship me for 2 weeks. It's because they've been enslaved for 400 years. They have not even learned what it is to worship me, because they've only worshiped me in captivity. Can they at least get away for 2 weeks so that they can go ahead? I'm asking you, I'm even going to be nice. I'm the King of Kings, but I because I'm a king, I still don't mind respecting your authority. And so look, you say that you're supposed to be a netzer. I am Elohim. You say you're a king. I am a king. No problem. King to king. Can you do me a solid and let my people go a 3 days journey, 60 miles away where nobody's around, nobody can influence them. They can come out of it because it's going to take them a few days just to get to a place. That's why it's got to be 3 days journey at least, because it's going to take them a few miles, a few days just to get to a position to where they could actually say, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to be enslaved to anybody anymore. Wait a minute, I don't have to run and say, Master, what you want? Wait a minute, I don't have to go ahead and say, is it all right if I do? Wait a minute, I don't have to try and like hide my child if I have a son that's born so that you don't try and take his life. Wait a minute, I don't have to sit here and try to figure out how okay, I got to go to work, but I also got to pick so and so school, and then I got to pick this up, and then I got to go to the store, and then I got to do this, and somehow in there, maybe before they take a shower, and or maybe I'll give them, if they're young, maybe I give them a bath, and then we read a story, and they can say that mommy was with them, even though I didn't see them all day today. I got to separate myself long enough to be able to go, all right, let's have some conversation. And you are alone in the wilderness, but here's the deal. All the Israelites need to go to the wilderness. That's why Revelation 12 is key. Israel has to separate herself, and then the remnant who's still in the world will have a place to come so that they can come and meet you. You are alone, but the reason you are alone is because it's time for you to start realizing that there's other people who are alone for the same reason you are, which is to build a nation to where we don't have to be built up by anybody else. Because when somebody else with no foundation builds you up, you're always going to fall into the ground. But when you build your house upon the rock, the foundation is correct. All you do is just build level after level after level after level. And so, yes, I feel alone, but there's a point in it. There's somebody listening to me right now that your first time you might have heard me was on a Sunday because you didn't feel like going to church on a Sunday. You were scrolling through stuff. You were done with church. You were done with the Bible for a little bit. You were just like, I need a break. And then you saw this dude that didn't even look like he was going to be talking about the Bible. And somehow, some way, you started listening. And you found out, wait a minute, he kind of alone, but it seemed like there's a bunch of people who kind of feel like him. So I guess he's with some people. Maybe there's some people who believe what I believe. How you doing, Minister Moselle? See, I've heard so many of you say this, not the same exact thing, but pretty close. Because once again, this is not just virtual. This is reality. We know each other. We talk to each other. We meet up with each other. We love each other, right? We take care of each other's families. We sow into each other. When somebody has an emergency situation, we try our best to make sure that we give finance and stuff to help. By the way, if you're still if you want to help the family, if you want to get with Minister Tamar, reach out to her and DM her. Or if you want to get the information for her, you have to get the Cash App if you want to help the family that just lost a child and stuff, right? But we come together on a regular basis, and we come together really every day. Even though I might feel alone in different places, I'm realizing there's people who believe what I believe, who love how I love, who talk how I talk, and who will show up when I show up. Right? Well, one of the people that we met with, forgive me, I'm forgetting sister's name. Is it Sister Jenny? Not Jenny from the block, but I might be messing his name up. I apologize. Right? She's been around with us for a while and came to the first meeting that when we started doing earlier in the year, we're going to get back to them. But when we started doing early in the year, let's have this group from this part of the country meet here and meet there. When we met with the people from Georgia, now we had already done Georgia meetups before in the past, but we invited all these people and I went on DM and I sent all these DMs out to Jeanette. Thank you, Sister Jeanette. Thank you. And I went out to all these, I sent out all these messages. Nobody showed up on that live Zoom, but 2 people. And I remember I told them, because I was like, it's not a great start. It was only going to be 3 of us, myself, and then you 2. And she was actually all the way on the West Coast at the time and was considering whether she was going to come back over here or not. But she still would be part of SOC. And if she needed to go and be with the people in California, so be it. But she was being faithful and she came on. And I said, this is how the way it works in my experience is that if we start off and only 3 of us show up, I promise you when we do the meetup, there's going to be a whole rack of people. And those 2 couldn't show up to the first one. One was too far south in Georgia, and one was all the way over in the West Coast. And yet, when we had the meetup, guess what happened? That meetup, we probably had like 15 people, 15, 20 people show up. Praise God, right? Two people show, three of us show up on a live session. And all of us, why? Because guess what? The Holy Spirit, we were armed with something. And just the fact that I said, I didn't even come on here. I didn't say, y'all didn't show up, this and that. You didn't hear any of that. And you never will. Nobody showed up. Not enough people showed up. Not enough people showed up to prayer. Not enough people showed up to this and that or whatever. You said help Palestine. We send help to Palestine and stuff like that. We talk about Palestine. So thank you so much for making sure that we were aware of it. We appreciate you. We're with you on that, right? So thank you so much. Matter of fact, if you want to tell people where they can go to get a better word because you think that helping Palestine is the only people we should help first, I'm not even mad at you for it. Go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll support. Thank you so much. And if you'd actually like to talk about how we can help Palestine better, you can go ahead, go on our main TikTok page, click on the link tree, text me or email me. Let's have a conversation about it. You know, because that probably would help out more with us actually being able to do real stuff to help them out than just stopping everything on here to say y'all aren't talking about what you need to help Palestine. So no problem. Let's do it. Right. Let's actually do what we need to do. You know, so but and all that stuff, you'll never hear me come out and say, oh, only 3 of y'all showed up. Oh, thank you for those who did show up. This and that. I didn't do any of that. Right. What did I do? I said, let's go ahead and make sure. Right. Let's go ahead and make sure that we have this. And I told them, you're going to be surprised. We sowed a seed. And all I did was say thank you to those who came to the meeting. And next thing you knew, what happened? Rack of people showed up, not just once, not just twice, not just 3 times, not just 4 times. And even the last time, we didn't have a lot of people that showed up at the last meeting, but it shows that we have a bunch of others. Now, there were a bunch of circumstances going on with people, but praise God, it means that we're growing. And if we keep on that road, Georgia going to be on point. Right? But we try to come through North Carolina real quick. I don't know what Saturday. I told you one of these Saturdays coming up real soon. We're going to try to come through real quick. But when we come through there, be ready, right? And come out. And even if only 1, 2, 3 people come out, right? But only 2, 3 people were supposed to come to the last time we did the Carolinas. And sure enough, right? And before that, or no, and then after that, was that South Carolina was after that? Something like that. Somewhere around there, we had South Carolina, North Carolina, and then South Carolina again. And we did families out in South Carolina, families in North Carolina, and we even ended up doing Passover, which I wasn't even really trying to invite everybody to, but it ended up where we ended up doing a whole Passover meal in South Carolina. But we did Detroit. We did a meetup that I thought I was just going to visit a couple people. And next thing I knew, we came up there. And then out of that, Pastor Hamilton comes on. He says, hey, man, we need to do this again. Hey, and I said, well, look, could we, we really like the look of things and not just look, but the feel. And we feel the warmth here and the family atmosphere. Could we go ahead and do, what do we do over there? Not Feast of Tabernacles. Kind of, sort of, but it wasn't. It was a convocation. The convocation over there. Ended up doing baptism over there, right? Ended up being able to have a pretty nice day. Had people fellowship and even had to ride with each other that we didn't expect. We're able to see things. Even go to a really nice restaurant that ended up being Black owned, and we didn't even know this, that, the third. Right. So I'm just saying, like. All you got to have is the faith the size of a mustard seed. Be faithful over a few things. See, you're already dangerous. You already can flip the whole script. You already can change what's going on in your diaspora. The question is, are you armed and dangerous? What are you armed with? What knowledge are you armed with? How you doing, Shabbos? And praying for you. Hope you're doing a little better today. Big Donut Godson, you've been on with this before, right? This is like what, 3rd, 4th time at least, right? I remember seeing your name. Maybe the 2nd time. So same stuff we've been talking about is what I believe. I mean, I apologize if I don't stop everything to give you a further explanation. If you'd like, once again, you can text, email us and see, or you can look at many different YouTube channels that we have saved, or you can just look probably on our TikTok post and probably see what I'm talking about, right? But see, today, right, we're talking about that you are already a danger to society, but you might as well be armed with something to protect yourself. And one of the greatest things you can protect yourself with is who you really are. How you doing, WIT? One of the things you can do to protect yourself is who you really are, is be who you really are. Right? Be who you really are. And a lot of people want you to step outside of who you are. They want you to step into a comfort zone. People say, don't step outside your comfort zone. No, they want you to step into a comfort zone. If you step outside your comfort zone, many people are not comfortable with who they are. You're not able to be comforted with who you are because you don't know. When I say step outside your comfort zone, I'm talking to the fact that many of you are not comfortable with you. Yeah, a lot of you are in a comfort zone, and your comfort zone separates you from you. Watch this. You're going to have some tough conversations with you this week. Right? You're going to have some tough conversations with you this week. That's not comfortable. Man, everybody's saying this and that about me or whatever. Why do I think they're saying? And it can't just be as simple as, oh yeah, they're all wrong. That's not conversation. That's you trying to win real quick and be done. Like if I have 35 people saying this about me, right? Like can I be honest with you guys? I end up not necessarily falling for the okie doke from what everybody says, but can I be honest? If I get a bunch of people that come on videos or live sessions or things like that, if they give me something worthy of me listening to, right? And what I mean by that is this. If you come on here, you call me a porch monkey, or call me a nigger, or call me, say that your hair is jacked up, or say that you people are this and that or whatever. Like I'm not listening to you. I don't have time for that, right? That's ad hominem. It shows that you have no value, right? At least your conversation has no value to me, even if you are valuable and could be more valuable than what you are now, right? But if somebody comes on and says, "Hey, maybe you should consider how you're talking to people," I'll sit there and I'll think to myself, okay, how am I talking to people? Am I being disrespectful? Is it something that maybe somebody doesn't comprehend because it's my culture? Am I coming off as something that they think is patriarchal, even though my patriarchs look different? But hey, I can see that because of where they're coming from. I'll take that. I'll take that. Right? That's constructive criticism. Even if I realize it's more construct than constructive, I'll still listen to the criticism, the critique. I have no problem listening to the critique, especially if the criteria is worthy of the critique. Right. Even if the person doesn't live up to what they're telling me, I'll still listen to it if it's actually something that's a higher level thought process. Right. But when somebody comes out and just automatically goes, oh, like I know exactly what you're talking about, this and that or whatever, and they won't listen, that's when we have a problem. He said Jesus is black and beautiful. Yeah, Yahshua is his name. Jesus means half man, half Zeus. So if you want to worship a demi-deist, right, and look at him as somebody who's got to have all those things, and so be it. But that's not who he is. He wouldn't even know what that name meant. Right. But I hear what you're saying, and I can acknowledge that what you're trying to say is the Messiah is black, and that's okay. And even black, being a term that we can even get into what does that actually mean. But yeah, I have no problem, which is why I have no problem being of his people and of his branch. Right. But once again, we make the assumption. We make the assumption that, oh, this person doesn't know what he's talking about, or that he just said that or whatever, or blah, blah. Like, no, like, yeah, I'm with you. Or maybe that wasn't even you making an assumption, right? I don't know. I didn't catch all the comments. Sometimes TikTok, filters it where I don't even see what you guys see. But yeah, we'd be in agreement. The Bible says agree with your adversary quickly if you are walking in the same way. So if we're walking in the same path, going towards the same thing, let's start coming to agreement on some things rather than, I know the Bible does say call every man a liar. Sure. But the Bible also says, do it for a purpose, do it for a reason. Just don't be out here calling people liars just to say that until you guys agree with me, I won't do anything. I'm not even accusing you of that directly. I'm just trying to say that's where a lot of people are. But see, you are dangerous, but you're not even armed with the patience or the long suffering. Yahashafai, Yad He Shin Vav Vav Ayin. Yeah. Yad He Shin Vav Ayin. I can't write that on the board right now. Right. We do have things where we can write it, but we've written it on boards though. You can go to a series that we have on TikTok called Having Been Led as We Believe, FAQ, and see those things right there. Right. some Q&A things that we've done, frequently asked questions, questions for Kofi, a lot of different things that we've had on there. So you can go look those things up, right? Some people, because of dialects, you might call it Yeshua, you might call it Yahavashai, Yahushua. These are dialects. But we're talking about the original, at least as close as we've been able to get to the original, do some research and stuff. Yahashivai, right? But see, what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, see, this stuff is dangerous. You can have something that's dangerous that could break, that could be a danger. See, you come with a warning, and you're dangerous, might as well be armed with something to protect yourselves. If the enemy has already declared that you deserve to be mistreated, you might as well make sure that if you deserve to be mistreated, that you're not going to just let anybody mistreat you. If the Holy Spirit leads you into the wilderness, to the cross, as Yehoshua was, right, to the Tav, then that's something else. But if the Holy Spirit is not leading you to be a martyr, don't be a martyr. That's as plain as the nose on your face, right? You said Christ is real and that's all that matters, brother. Well, okay. Christ says, I'm the door. He's the door to the kingdom. So Christ obviously wants us to learn how the kingdom operates. And he said in Matthew chapter 5, verse 17 through 20, in verse 17, he says what? He says, do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy the law, but I came that it might be fulfilled. That means to be put into effect. Verse 18, he says, until heaven and earth pass, should not one jot or tittle in any wise pass, right? That means the most minuscule of measurements, because every character has a number attached, and every what? And every yow, the way it's written, even though we keep changing it, because that's because we say that all that matters is something else, right? Verse 19, the Messiah, this is the Sermon on the Mount. Verse 19 of Matthew chapter 5, he says, anyone who teaches that we shouldn't live by the law or doesn't live by it themselves is considered to be the least in the kingdom. But those who live by it and teach how to live by it, they're considered to be the greatest. And then in verse 20, he comes behind that and says, you should know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. So the Messiah being around is one thing, that's great. But also not everybody who comes to him saying, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven. There's levels to it, right? You said always challenge? Sure. Challenge everything for a reason. Challenge it just for challenging gets us to Dunning-Kruger effect. You can have apologetics, but challenging for challenging leads to gaslighting at times. So challenge something to actually get what's culturally representative. I agree with you once again. But if we're just getting to a point of just, I challenge everything just for the sake of challenging everything. I mean, if you want to be in a duel all day, every day, sure. I mean, at some point, no matter how great a duelist you are, you will lose. Right? Duel somebody for the honor of something worth you putting your life on the line for. And if you're going to duel people, at least duel people that are not even following what you're following, or duel people that are not at least walking the same path that you're walking. At some point, dueling somebody who you're going to need, fine, you off that person, and then that person was going to be the very person you need to go into business with to make sure that your diaspora was going to be okay. Okay, you secured the win, but for what cause? Thank you, Shane. Right? How you doing, Iska? Right? Like, what's the call? What's the purpose of it? My cousin used to say all the time, what's the point of this exercise? If somebody asked me to come on and they say, we want to come on and we're going to talk about women and stuff, I'm like, okay, well, what's the point? What's the purpose? Are we like just clowning them the whole time? Or like we actually talking about how to like come together with them? Are we like what's the point of the exercise? If the point of the exercise is just to win or just to say I'm better, like then who cares? I don't need any of that. I'm comfortable with who I am and where I am without any of that. Yeah, is it glorifying the Most High? And like I said, when I got to that place where I'm led, more so that I just do something, because the road to hell is paved with righteous intentions. There's a lot of people that meant well and still caused a lot of hell, lived a lot of hell, and who knows? Maybe they're in hell. I don't have heaven to hell to put anybody in, so I can't verify who's there or who's not. That's not my responsibility, nor is it something that I want any part of. But there's a lot of people who do a lot of things that doesn't negate that there are a lot of people who do a lot of things that cause more harm than righteousness for the sake of saying that I give the best questions. You said, how shall we not do nothing? Question for you: when did I say anything about not doing anything? You see, once again, this is about winning. Now we're doing like straw man arguments or gaslighting. No offense to you, I'm just trying to show you, right? Like, you've never heard me say not to do anything. Once again, it might be your first time listening to me, maybe not, but Look at recording. Look at things that we've done. Look at where we go around the world. Look at stuff that we give for school. Maybe you weren't on where we were literally talking about, hey, if your children are coming on to get lessons for homeschooling and stuff, my wife's going to be doing this on this day. My wife's going to be doing this. My son's going to be doing this. I'm going to help with this, blah, blah, blah. We travel. We talk to each other. Like, this is not just virtual for us. This is reality. There's hundreds of us, right? If not thousands of us, really. But as far as actually active, there's hundreds of us that do a lot of things. We're in the midst of trying to secure and 100% finally finish up with the land that we've been trying to get for a while, so we can go ahead and make sure that we can make sure we're growing our own food. And that turns into, if people need a place to stay from time to time, or if we flip that to something else, it's going to be something we're going to leave to our children, where many of us are going to be able to have an opportunity to this. And we're not going to just do it in one place. We're going to continue it over and over and over again. So when you say, like, are we not supposed to do anything? That's an assumption that you make. Now, if that assumption is based off of things that you've heard, people that sound similar, or people that look like me, or maybe people you've been involved with that don't do anything. But if you're doing something wherever you are, let's talk about it. Let's actually try to see if we can make it work, rather than making the assumption that nobody's moving. See, even the conversation and the teaching that we're having has to stay still, and I don't mind it. But hear what I'm saying. Even that has to stay still to ensure that, hey, okay, let me show you again. All right, we say this 7-8 times during a live session, but let me tell you again. Let me show you again. Let me make sure you're aware, right? Or hold me accountable, but hold me accountable to what I say, and then look at what I do. Ask people on here, right? We're going to do a shout out. We do a shout out to end this. If you don't know what that is, we have something on here where people can connect with one another, and also can look up ways of seeing what we do behind the scenes. Ask people who are going to, like, reveal that they're part of this movement that we have, this lifestyle that we live, this family that we're securing, this nation we're trying to build. Ask them yourself, what do you guys do? And then once you see that, then look to see if you could go to these places and hold me accountable. Do you actually do this? Do you actually do that? Are there people that do get financial help? You just said that you do that. Okay, where are the people? Can I talk to them? Hey, are there even the people that disagree, even people that might not be with us and don't like us, we had disagreement with, ask them where we are. You see what I'm saying? I don't mind you asking people that disagree, because you should. I'm just saying, asking for the sake of asking. What's the point? Ask for the sake of learning, and then saying, okay, if I'm going to learn, what am I going to now do? Many people are hearers of things, but they don't do anything with what they hear. So I could give you 7,000 answers today, and if we're not going to do anything with it, it's still meaningless. Right? So yeah, so you haven't heard me once say don't do anything at all. Matter of fact, if you've listened, you've heard me say quite the opposite. And I'm saying that it's going to have to start, though, with you realizing that there's going to have to be some mental separation from something, right? Because that's the best thing you could start doing, is to make sure that you're having some kind of mindset change, some kind of paradigm shift that allows you to be able to see that a lot of stuff that you were taught about yourself that causes the nonchalance and the hypocritical stance of saying that we should go, but we always remain still and doing the same thing and getting the same result, ultimately equating to what many of you would call insanity. First things first is that you got to have a paradigm shift. Now, if you've already had the paradigm shift, right? If you've already had the paradigm shift, then maybe this is something where you're just like, oh, this part is slow for me. And I even can respect that. And I honor you on your journey. Right. But if we're going to talk about true change, then let's get it. You want to be part of when we're putting the clothing stuff together, the food together. You want to make sure that we're securing land. You want to help us to make sure that we're writing bylaws that are going to make sure that nobody can go ahead and mess with those things. Like, we have plenty of space and plenty of area. My wife and I, we don't do everything, but we do a lot by ourselves. We definitely welcome the help if you're serious. You said, Yahweh, we rebuke the spirit of strife and division and submit to your will and your way in the name of Yahshua Mashiach. Yeah. So I don't mind. And I'm not sent to those. Also, too, maybe you might be somebody that's not in need of a physician, or you don't need help or growth. But, I look for those that are in need of a physician. Right? No matter how much people want to try, and then there's going to be an argument over this or that. So that's why I say, like, I'm comfortable and confident in myself. Matter of fact, if Yahshua was alive and he didn't want to be called half man, half Zeus, right? Like, let's make something simple. Why would we still call him that? Like, people don't like it when I say talk like this, but I'm just saying these are things for you to ponder. And if you feel like you want to go against it, that's up to you, right? But I feel like I'm just as qualified to talk about stuff as others are, especially from whichever angle you want to pull it in. I can pull it from the church angle. I can pull it from the Yastral angle. I can pull it from the Afrocentric angle, the humanity angle. If you want to talk, I don't believe in evolution, but we can talk about evolutionary angle. That's what true apologetics are, when you've learned how to empathize with enough people to where even if you don't know, as far as you're not intimate with what they do, it doesn't mean that you're not aware of and are allowed to allow people to talk about where they come from. But it's very interesting, even in the name, right? Where people are going to be like, I'm going to tell you this name no matter what this, but watch this. My name is Kofi in Ghana. My name is Kofi in Twi. My name is Kwavai, but still you would probably say it's Kofi in Yashtal, Israel. My name is still Kofi in America. If I go and I get, as I'm going to do, as I've been doing every day for quite some time now, if I go and I get my fruit smoothie for the day, my 40-ounce fruit smoothie, and fill myself up to where I can barely eat anything else, and even if I wanted some sweets and anything, I don't even have any room for it, right? When I go get my 40-ounce smoothie today, and they say, what's your name? My name is still going to be Kofi, and I'm going to spell it out for them. And even though it's Kofi, they're still going to say my name. You know why? Because that's my name, period. That's what it is. Even if you want to say, oh, well, what does your name mean? Well, we could say my name means Friday born. The Ofori, or they could talk about that I'm firstborn, this, that, whatever. We could talk about my Israelite name, right? Which some of you would say the more popular pronunciation would be Yesub ben Yasrael, right? We could talk about that, right? But it would still be that anywhere I would go. It wouldn't change. See, and what I'm trying to say is that's dangerous. For a lot of people, that's dangerous when you come into a knowledge of self and you say that I know who I am, and no matter where I go, my name or authority, amen, my name or authority, it does not change. That's dangerous to people, because what people want you to believe is, well, when you come into where we are, it doesn't matter who you are, it matters where you are. And here we say that by law, it doesn't matter where you're from, it matters who you're from. This is why in your Bible it says, I am Yahweh, or you would like to say, because you don't want to be honest about what that word is. So you say, I am the Lord, I change it not. Right? It doesn't change. It is what it is. In my culture, if this is what it is, then that's what it is. And I don't care. Like, I won't even say I don't care, but I'm not going to change up what my culture is because of you. This is why, look, if you're LGBTQ plus, I say this all the time, in your culture, do what you do. And matter of fact, I will respect who you are. But you can't walk into my house and expect in my house that it's they, them, because that's my family. That's my house. I'm responsible for that. That's my culture. People get mad in Africa. They go to all these European people have been trying to go to Africa, and they're starting to make a little headway, if I'm being honest, but it's not ending up like they want, because they keep going and they're talking to presidents and stuff, and they're saying, okay, the presidents will bow down like our presidents do. And so they go over there, they say, hey, presidents over here, like our presidents have, we'll help you, we'll give you financial aid and this and that, or we'll do this, but we need to go ahead and have you agree with homosexuality. And some of the presidents are even in the spot where they're like, well, number one, we don't need your financial aid. But number two, our people don't believe in that. And I'm not the president of Europe. I'm not the president of France. I'm not the president of the United States of America. I'm not the president of Canada or the prime minister, right? I'm not the president of whatever. I'm the president of this nation. I'm the president of Cameroon, right? I'm the president of Ghana. I'm the president, and the president of Ghana was tripping, so, but still, there's certain things he's not going to do. Why? Because we don't operate there, because it's not like that, because it's not our culture. It is not our culture. It is not acceptable over there to do that. And that's okay. How you doing, Queen Sheila? That's okay. It's all right for you to do what's in your culture. It's all right for us to do what's in ours. If you're on Babe, it's 11:11, right? It's okay for you to do what's in your culture. It's all right for us to do what's in ours. Right? So you can do whatever it is that you feel like you have to do. Right? You do what you want to do. And look, that's the weird thing is I don't see what the problem is and why people have this conversation like that. Like, you have every right to do what it is that you want to do, just not in my house. And I have every right to do what I want to do, just not in yours. So if you're going to be part of a culture that where you do stuff like that, then by all means do it. I don't even comprehend why people come on live sessions. If I just be honest with you, why people even come on live sessions. I get it. I actually comprehend. I don't understand. I comprehend it. But I don't understand. I don't stand under the principle where it's like I don't even agree. Like, people will send me stuff, and I do it from time to time. People send me stuff. Can you go on so and so's live? Can you listen to their channel? Can you try and get in contact with them? You need to tell them that they're blah blah. And I listen and stuff, but I pray about it, and I think about it, and I just go, this person doesn't even believe what I believe. What's the point? Like, am I just going on there to argue? No offense to you guys. Please send me videos and stuff. I don't get a chance to really look at them anyway because I'm busy. But I try every once in a while to sit down and let me go through the rabbit hole and let me look at least 4 or 5 videos out of 20 that somebody might have sent me. Or sometimes I get 150 videos and I got to try to go through a couple of them to at least make sure the person knows that I've taken time out to see. But I'm just being honest. Like, yeah, I'll look. I'll try. Sometimes I've even been, they made me look pretty bad. I'll go on there and they yell at me and fuss at me and stuff. And then they basically try to use ad hominem. And I'm like, wow, okay. They just wanted to make me look crazy. And they didn't do anything, didn't prove anything. And people even back me up when the person kicked me off. But hey, they have every right. It's their live session. I don't mind it. But I try to even stay clear of being on somebody's stuff if I don't agree, unless the Holy Spirit says, sit there and listen. And I'm trying to learn what somebody else might listen with, but it's not even it's like throwing the pearls, right? It's not even my thing. If somebody thinks that they should have 75 wives and I don't agree with it, we're probably not going to hash that out in the live session anyways, Like, I don't mind making sure that people know the reason why I hope and what I hope in. I don't even mind in healthy debate. I know there are people that say, don't debate the word. I don't debate with anybody. But the word debate is not even what you think it is, because debate's supposed to mean that there's rules, regulations, that you actually treat people with respect. Like, debate is not just yelling at each other. We don't even know what a debate is. A lot of people have never had a real argument because you think an argument means that y'all yell. That's not even an argument. Thank you for the compliment. Appreciate it, Kevin. To argue something does not mean that I yell at you. To argue something means that I'm presenting a point. Anybody who's been on a debate team, matter of fact, if you know how debate teams work, to become a great debater, you're actually supposed to learn the other person's position to learn how you can debate it better than they do. So that's why if I'm talking to somebody who's in the evolution and they're saying this and that or whatever, I would say, well, first things first. I was like, even if I'm going to argue evolution, I have to ask, which evolution are we talking about? See, you seem to be talking about the evolution of animals, but animals are from the evolution of races, right? But races used to be what we called species, and animal races come because you told Carl Linnaeus that there's animal races, right? Because they compete against each other. A race is a competition. On your marks, get set, race, go. Right. So they had competition. And then Carl Linnaeus started saying that there were 4 races of human beings, that right. There must be 4 species of human beings. He said that on top was white, next was red, next was yellow, next was black. He gave them Latin sounding names. So you and I think that these names actually mean something because they told you that if it's in Latin, it must be real or it must be scientific. But the reality of it, that's not really how science works, correct? But then on top of that, you're giving me more stuff about species. Problem with that is that you have to admit then that Charles Darwin's book that you love so much, written in 1859, right around the time of Manifest Destiny and the Lost Cause and White Man's Burden and all these different things coming out of Doctrine of Discovery, et cetera. We have to also take time out to say what? We got to take time out to say that, look at the title of his book. He's a Linnaean apostle, or he's a Linnaean disciple, right? It even says it in the title of the book, right underneath his name. It says that he is Linnaean, right? But then also read the book. It says this is the origin of species by means of natural selection, or the struggle for survival, or the struggle. The origin of species, the theory of evolution by means of natural selection, or the survival of favored races in the struggle for life. That's the name of his book. So if we're going to talk about this, should we not at least make sure that we're talking about the fact that we need to make sure that we're upholding racism, and that he actually does more into race and does more as far as damage, and that even his cousin is therefore going to be the one who writes the book on eugenics? which now gets into IQ tests and other things. So so I have to even know their point of view. Matter of fact, I have to know that Charles Darwin not only did his uncle hate people of color, and his father did as well, but his uncle was somebody that hated the whole notion of there being a God. And this was something that was weird for him to deal with because he looked up to his uncle sometimes more than his own father, although his father sent him to school to be what his father was. His father was a racist who also was a preacher. So Charles Darwin's only degree he actually went to school for, although that's relatively speaking, because Charles Darwin was actually somebody who went to school, got his baccalaureate as a bachelor. That's why you also call baccalaureate degrees bachelor's degrees. Why? Because eligible bachelors would go to school. Their parents who could afford to let them mess around would let them mess around for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. And then you might go ahead and give them a degree paid for. And they paid for them to be able to stay over there in the school. Right? So if I know all this about Charles Darwin, then I'm able to do what? I'm able to have an actual debate, an actual art. So I could argue Charles Darwin's point of view better than the scientists could, because they don't either know it or they're not aware of it. They don't care about it. Thank you for the love. You see? And how you doing, Mr. Mom? So that's what I'm saying is people say don't debate, but you don't even know what a debate is. The word debate is not even what they use in the Bible. Some of the new versions, they say that. But when people say don't debate the word, we don't even know what the debate is. I can't even have a debate with many people because you have no rules that guide you in an argument. You use ad hominem. In apologetics, which is the art of defending that which you believe, going ad hominem on somebody basically means that you have nothing to actually give of value. So ad hominem literally means to the man. So it means that basically I'm just going to argue at you. I'm going to say, it's like when you were in school. Here's a high school version of ad hominem. You ready? All of us saw this in high school, junior high, elementary, preschool, and a lot of y'all still do it, right? You laugh at it when you see people do it on television. You ready for this? You said, wasn't everybody racist during Darwin's time? Of course not. Because if you're going to talk about 1859, guess who was being hung because he was fighting for black people? He himself was a pastor, Pastor John Brown. So obviously not everybody could be racist. You see? You have to be careful with that, right? Just like not every black person likes their own people, or every black person thinks that white people are cool. Because there's some black people who are what you would term reverse racist. Right. And they would go against people because of the color of their skin, because of some bad experiences that they had with one person. So therefore, all people must be equal. Correct. So of course not. Right. Of course not. Shalom to you. Right. But yeah, you see that. So when I'm dealing with somebody who's dealing with evolution, we got to figure out what evolution are you talking about. Some people the sixth evolution, they try to say it's evolution that happens because a male in a species, a female in a species, they come together. And when they come together, they mate, and when they mate, they have offspring, and the offspring looks slightly different. There's a slightly different variance than what their parents were. We would just call that two people being married, or if you're talking about animals, two animals having sex. And out of that, there's seed that's given into an egg. And of course, they would have characteristics of the father and mother, but not in them. They say that's evolution. See, so you even have to ask them, like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the evolution of the sun, the moon, the stars? What are we talking about? Because see, then we got to figure out what you're talking about. Are we talking about the universe? Are we talking about what's affectionately known as the Big Bang? And they'll hit you with some stuff and you'll stop talking because somebody will say, well, it wasn't called the Big Bang. It wasn't called the Big Bang on the radio station. They start, okay, fine. But when I say the Big Bang, you know what I'm talking about. And you don't want to talk about it's a religious thing anyways, because just like the only reason why you call atoms is because there used to be a religious belief by Greeks, right? It was in their religion, or in a Greek religion, right? But it was something that they overall had agreed on, which basically said that the smallest thing that could be was an atom, right? That was what they believed. And so since that's what they believed, you said that there was nothing smaller than an atom until lo and behold, so you found something really small. And so you decided to label it an atom based off of Greek theology, then didn't realize that there was a subatomic particle. So now you try to say, oh, well, we have to change what things mean. No, by definition, when you found the subatomic particle, technically that should be your atom. And you have to rename what you call the atom something else, because that smallest thing you found is now the atom. But you can't do that because you'd have to admit that you were wrong. See, when you're dangerous already, they just try to treat you like you're stupid. But when you're armed and dangerous, they can't mess with you, because I'm armed not only with knowledge of who I am, but now I'm all about finding out who others are. So if you're going to try to tell somebody that you're something, but I know who you really are, or you're going to try to tell somebody you represent somebody, but I know who they really are, I'm going to address it. direct. If you tell me about the Big Bang Theory, right? And now it's different. Now they say they have different modules and all this stuff. But you tell me about the Big Bang Theory. Question for you. Watch this. Watch this. These are just questions. These are just questions. And I know we're going close to time, so I'm not going to be on too much longer. But just questions for you. Just questions. Real talk. Just questions. But these are things we should ask. What is the first example of the Big Bang Theory? Where did it start? Before they start telling you all this other stuff, do you even know where it started? Not just with the radio program. I'm talking about before that. It's affectionately called the Big Bang Theory. Where did it start? It starts in Greece. When you have all these Greek colonists, because Greece was not a country. The Greeks are now considered to be all these different people, but they were a whole bunch of people, and the Persians were coming for them. The Greeks come together, they stand up. Eventually, over time, they're able to actually ward them off. And all of them, pretty much, except the Spartans and maybe a couple others, but all these states come together and they say, we're going to form a country. They become the Greeks. They become Greece. And they hire somebody to start taking all these different deists or deities that belong to all these different city-states and what you might call tribes or peoples, whatever. And they say, we're going to go ahead and put all of them together. They hire somebody to do so. And so this is how they start off. They start off with biblical principles, but they shoot off of it. Just like they didn't have a Greek alphabet, they had to learn it from those who had the alphabet. They had to learn from us who already had something culturally, who said this is how things started. So they say, instead of the way that the Bible says it, they say in the beginning was nothing. This is Greek theology. This is Greek theology. You don't want to recognize it as what y'all call religious, but this is Greek theology. See if it sounds familiar, especially the way some of it's going to sound foreign to you. Some of it is going to sound familiar, especially I'm going to give you certain terms. And think about Genesis 1 in particular, especially Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through maybe 1 through 10, 1 through 11. Think about this now. This is what they're going to tell you in Greek theology. Same thing that's out today. They say in the beginning there was nothing. And then out of nothing, there was an explosion. And this explosion's name is Gaia. If you're not familiar with Gaia or even what Gaia looks like, if you're old enough to remember Captain Planet, that's who Gaia is. And Gaia is, in fact, the correct color, because Greeks were not what you consider to be white people. Right? Alexander the Great's father, Philip of Macedonia, was a person of color. He was considered to be dark-skinned. He was swarthy. Right? So they say in the beginning, there was nothing. Gaia came out. And then out of Gaia came firmament and Neptune. You call them they would have called him Uranus and Neptune. You now call him up. You said it's buffering. Is it buffering for everybody on TikTok? Is it buffering for everybody? On YouTube, are we doing all right? On TikTok, is it buffering for everybody? Okay. So it says, in the beginning was Gaia, and then Gaia had two children out of immaculate conception. These two children's names are Firmament and Neptune. That's why we say Gaia, because that's their real name. Or some of you, before it was called Firmament, they would have called it Uranus or Uranus and Neptune. Uranus and Neptune. Uranus is the one that looks over up the firmament, the upper seas. And Neptune, King Triton, Poseidon, Neptune is in the lower seas. And out of Neptune, then, there's going to come the earth, and out on top of the earth are going to come the Titans. And the Titans eventually going to give birth to the gods, and the gods, Zeus specifically, is going to eventually give birth to man, so that man can worship him. But then man, right, realized, right, Perseus. You know about Perseus, right? Perseus is somebody who realized that even though he was half man, well, this is kind of a new spin on Perseus, I'll admit to you, but this is what we now do with Perseus, right? There was some I was just watching. I fell asleep on it, but I was trying to watch it to study it, to see some stuff out of it. But Clash of the Titans, right? There's one from 1981, by the way, or 1991, something like that, and then there's one in the 2000s. But Clash of the Titans. And Perseus' whole thing the whole time is, I don't need any God's help. And that's the whole movie, is they're trying to go against the gods. And Zeus is trying his best to make sure that the people worship him again. And then Hades is mad, but Hades wants to turn on Zeus because Zeus betrayed him and all this stuff. Like, you're dealing with their religion. And here it is that nobody told you that the Big Bang is Gaia. Nobody told you that atoms is a name that was given out of them because they thought that everybody was made up of the smallest particles ever, and there was nothing smaller than atoms, even though they had no microscope at the time. So that they weren't going off of something that they actually had seen. They were just saying there was a term called atoms. And when somebody was actually able to see these really small particles, they started calling them atoms, saying they were the smallest particles, until they realized they were subatomic particles. So their science, they're saying, are trying to, is going to continue to show the truth, is really something where their science was based on religion. And then all of a sudden their religion got messed up when they realized that what they said was real really wasn't. And now they want you to have faith in the next step, and the next step, and the next step, when the reality is you didn't create this. You don't know how this works. We talked about this yesterday. If we were to take space and act like space was the ocean, if we were to try and act like the volume of space and liken it to the volume of the ocean on the earth, right? If you wanted to know how much of space we've seen, imagine that space was the ocean of the water of the earth, and or the oceans of the earth, all the waters of the earth, the oceans, the seas, everything. Imagine that's space, right? And I took a cup and I dunked it in the water and I pulled it up. And I said, this, what I have in my hand, this is all I've discovered of the ocean. That's basically all they've looked at in space. And out of this, they're trying to tell you and I they know everything. Now, here's another question, right? Here's another question. In a Big Bang, right? This is law. This is scientific law. If there's an explosion that happens and everything starts going, and let's say the explosion happens and everything starts spinning this way, everything that comes out of that explosion is going to spin the same way. Whether you like it or not, this is not me coming up with something. That's the way it's going to happen. If an explosion happens, let's say we were all on a merry-go-round even, and there were 20 of us on the merry-go-round, and somebody was spinning it, and it just kept getting faster and faster. And eventually, we all couldn't hold on, and we would let go, right? All of us would spin in the same direction and move in the same direction that we were on in the merry-go-round, right? That's what would happen, right? They said now the audio is being cut off. Can you guys hear me all right or no? Am I buffering? Is the audio being cut off? I'm not going to be on that much longer, but if I need to, I can come back on and come back off. Okay. So there'd be an explosion, and we would all, or on the merry-go-round, we would keep going the same way, right? Question for you: if there's a Big Bang or an explosion, or if they want to say now there's 3 different smaller universes or whatever that hit each other or something like that, and then we all went different ways. Question for you: if that's how it happened, then why are there planets and moons that spin one way, and then planets and moons that spin the other way? I mean, that's scientific law. We're all right over there. Okay, thank you. Right. I'm just saying this is laws. Question for you: if there's an explosion and it's in space, and space is a vacuum, they had to change that because of this type of questioning that I'm about to bring up. Now they say it's not a complete vacuum, or now they say even in a vacuum, things can come down, right? So if there's dirt and stuff, if I put it in the vacuum, the dirt can come down, right? That's what they need to start telling you. The space is not a complete vacuum. Okay. Right. Well, even if it's not a complete vacuum, but let's just say it's a vacuum. By the way, the vacuum of space, does stuff move in space? Do things like go all over the place? Do things just randomly move, or do they seem to be held? But that's another question that might lead to something else. But here's another question: if if there's an explosion and stuff's just going to start going, there has to be some kind of friction to slow it down, right? You know that, right? Like sometimes one of the reasons it's even difficult to run is because you run through air, and although you can't see air still causes some type of friction, or at least some type of resistance, right, against your body. So even when I'm running, I'm even running against, right, the air. But if there's no air in space, which brings up other questions as far as how is it you have fireballs that go with no oxygen? but things that we say are required for fire to exist, right? But right, and things are destroyed in explosion as well, right? But let's just say there was a destructive force. Let's say things banged into each other. They used to say something came out of nothing. Now they didn't want to do that because that's too close to intelligent design. Although they believe in intelligent design, but intelligent design is not come from a person. So the things that are random have their own intelligence and then came together and formed intelligence, I guess. But if let's just say you're right about it, and let me just turn off my brain because that's what we're supposed to do. All right, if we're just supposed to turn off our brains, you're going, and there's this explosion. Question, because you say in the beginning there also wasn't hydrogen, or these things had to, evolve, right? So hydrogen had to come from somewhere, but we don't know where it came from, or helium or oxygen or nitrogen, etc. But then as it explodes and it moves throughout the universe, when does this stuff slow down if there's nothing to cause friction? When do these things slow down to actually become parts of planets? When does the moon, if there's an explosion that happens on the moon and a chunk of the moon is missing, how does the moon slow down and then slow down enough and then start going around the earth and then slow down to where it's not just going around real fast, but it actually slows down enough? And then how does it actually form into the nice, neat little ball? I guess you say that's because of gravity, but it was just a chunk and it didn't look like that. You're saying that all of the stuff came together and then eventually just became a perfect ball. And by the way, even when they say the earth is a perfect ball, why are you never honest about it? Because that blue part that you're seeing, it's not just the waters and stuff like that. You're talking about the atmosphere. The atmosphere ends up looking blue because you told me the sky looks blue because there's a bunch of stuff that happens in the atmosphere. So why are you not honest about the fact that the ball that you keep talking about is not necessarily even the earth or the water, but you're actually looking through like a globe, but the globe is not the earth itself. The earth itself is not the globe. Like, I'm just saying, like, there's things when I ask questions and then people just say, it's because you don't understand. Or you just give me another theory. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't, just because there's a theory is not fact. You know that, right? Like, A can be fact and C can be fact, but I might not know B. So I come up with the theory to say, okay, until I can figure out A to C, this at least helps me in everyday life to be able to move and not have to worry about this thing, right? Like, for example, we still say that there's gravity, but gravity is a theory, and gravity is a theory that has been disproven. Why? Because the theory of relativity, the reason why it was such a big deal and Einstein became such a big deal is because he actually disproved what Sir Isaac Newton said, which means that because you think gravity is only what keeps you down, but gravity is supposed to be what keeps me down, what keeps me from going side to side, what keeps me from going up, what causes inertia. All these things are supposed to be the gravitas, or the gravity of the situation. But instead, we don't even teach people, hey, gravity is not even real anymore. It was a theory that we had. Albert Einstein came through and he showed us that gravity is not real. And somebody has since disproven Albert Einstein's theory. Now, am I saying there's no truth to gravity? Of course not. See, and that's when people get upset. You try to, right? No, just because I say that a theory is not correct doesn't mean that anything in the theory cannot be correct. Even if you don't believe the Bible is not correct, this is when people lose me. Even if you disagree with the Bible, you lose me when you try to hit me with this one part of the Bible I don't agree with. Therefore, everything written in it must be wrong. Where you get that from? People will say there's not one person in the Bible that you can look up and you can find them buried. You can find Israelites buried in Kemet right now who were slaves. What are we talking about? They have E1B1A blood. They have the same DNA, right? At least according to their science. I don't always agree with their science, but hey, let's use their science. According to their science, they're the same bone structure and the same DNA as the people that buried underneath. Not necessarily always with the pharaohs, but buried where the slaves were. And then you look at the people that are buried in Israel, and you'll find they have the same DNA. And I'm not just talking about E1B1B, because there are Kemetic people who left with us. I'm talking about E1B1A. And if you study that and you look at people that are buried in the United States of America, guess what they also have? E1B1A, which means that when people say Deuteronomy 28:68 must have some kind of truth to it, we're not actually just talking about theory. We're putting together facts. But see, when somebody says these facts, you say, oh, we don't like the way you bring about context, therefore we'll try to make it hyper-theoretical. But you have people living by theories every day that don't make sense. Once again, where did hydrogen come from? You can't prove it. You can't even show me. You give me a theory, but I say I can give you stuff that you can look up. How many people have you heard say that? Any of the people in the Bible, you tell me where they are. Man, I can show you a group of people called Israelites. What are you talking about? Our people do that. Afrocentric people do that, and it annoys me. Then no shade to them. I'm just saying it's annoying that you are so busy telling everybody you're so schooled that you're not realizing that you're actually being manipulated by the same thing that you say that you're trying to get free of. You're about that Balaam doctrine. We were warned about you too, because not all skin folk is kinfolk. We were warned about you too in Revelation chapter 2, verse 14, Balaam doctrine. We read about you in Numbers 22, 23, 24. We saw the result of you in Numbers 25. How you doing, Michelle? Sorry for not saying so earlier. Thank you for the love. See, we were warned about you. And nobody will actually look this stuff up and then mess around. When you look it up, you got to look it up through what somebody else, the person that you say we're not supposed to listen to, we always have to look it up in their library, in their book, in their encyclopedia. We have to be schooled by them. That you go to their university. Even when you talk about HBCUs, do some research. A lot of HBCUs are not yours. See, it's like when people say hip hop. It's hip hop culture. Hip hop. They always messing with us. Hip hop. That's why they want to come. You hear all these people say stuff like that. It's hip hop culture. They don't like us in hip hop culture, bro. They don't really like hip hop because you know it's black. You are the face of it. But to be the face of something doesn't mean you own it. Shady Records, even, and I know that's a bad example to some because Eminem is not you, but Shady Records is under somebody else. They say they partner with M, but real talk, they own it. Shady Records is under Aftermath Records. Dr. Dre is not the owner of Aftermath. He partnered with somebody. G Unit that came out of Eminem. They're not owned. They don't own their stuff. You know, you got to look at the Leah Cohens of the world. Snoop owns Death Row. Okay, yeah, sure. Right? And even Death Row wasn't really owned fully by Suge. We just go, Suge owned it. Kind of, sort of. Right? But hear what I'm saying? Even Snoop and all the stuff that he does, if Snoop goes on an album, if Snoop puts something out, Snoop not getting 100%. Snoop not necessarily getting 50. When Snoop does all these shows, Snoop's not in charge of shows. Snoop has a boss. You know? Like, I'm not coming at the person who said it. I'm just, I'm sorry. Right? My voice might be indicating something different. You know? But Snoop has a boss. He got to check in too. I know he don't have to check in as much as you do. And by the way, they let him get away with certain things they wouldn't let you get away with because Snoop represents a certain thing that they need to be represented. It's bigger than that. I'm just saying. So we have to get to a place to where you recognize that you come with a warning. When people see you, right? Don't think that when people see, and look, I love you enough to say both of these things. When people see you in the kingdom, they should see your heart. They should see your mind. How you doing, Sister Mignon? They should see your love. They should see your talent. They should see your gift. They should see how much that you care about your community. They should see the mother in you, the wife in you, the father in you, the son in you, the husband in you, the daughter in you. They should see those things, right? I'm not saying that none of that exists. I'm saying there are people out there that you are giving yourself to fully and not even thinking twice about who am I to them. That's what I want to know. If I get into business dealing with you, that's part of the reason why I'm learning now and doing business and doing land and doing stuff on bigger levels. I'm learning like a lot of the conversations that y'all have is not even about the business. We will get to the business. We're going to lay out stuff. The contract got to be there, all this stuff. We got to make sure that there's certain things that they're not saying, etc. Right? I get all that. I get every last part of that. Right? But at the same time, I'm learning when you do big time business, people want to talk to you. They want to, who are you? What you about? How's your family doing? Oh, you guys are in the what? Oh, wow, I've never really heard anybody say it from that perspective. That actually makes sense. Like they want to have, they want to have you do some stuff that's on a different level. Right? They want to have you do some things that are not like or they want to know who you are. right? Money comes and goes. A lot of times they want to know where the money going into because they comprehend the idea of sowing. They might even work with you. They might even say, hey, man, we'll just give you whatever you want, right? Or, hey, we'll set up a payment plan or we'll do whatever. They might work with you. They might work with you, but they need to what? First, they need to see, who are you? Who am I sowing into? And then you need to do that how you do, Brother TJ. You need to do that with everybody you come into contact with. From this point on, right? From this point on, you need to make sure everybody you come into contact with, right? Who am I to you? And who are you? And do I know enough about you to empathize with where you are so that I can know if you're worthy of business, that you're worthy of my heart, because I'm about to give you my all, but not everybody deserves my all. I'm about to give it to you though. Real talk. I'm about to give you my all. Right? I'm about to give you my all. I was talking to angelic discipline. I'm about to give you my all. No cap. Anybody who know me, when we get into what we get, you about to get everything I got. I might be busy, I might be this, but I promise you, once you got a hold of me, like you got my full attention, we're gonna work this. And if you do life coaching, marital coaching, if you gonna help with the diaspora, if you're gonna help to give clothes out, if you just got questions for me, if you're gonna even be somebody who's gonna tell me, right? If you're gonna be somebody that tells me what I need to do and give me constructive criticism, I got you. You got my all. I'm gonna give you confidant energy. I'm not just a constituent or comrade. I'm gonna give you confidant energy. That being said, though, before we get into all that, yeah, like let's see about you. Like people ask me, hey, can I help with this? Can I do this? Can I do that? Or whatever. Sure. And I'm like, well, let's have conversation first. And you're probably not used to that because somebody be like, oh yeah, go ahead and do this. Go ahead and go ahead and do this. Go ahead. Thank you, Auntie Mary. Thank you, sis. Right. Go ahead and do this. And guess what? Guess what I do? I'll be like, well, before we do all that, let me talk to you first because I'd like to know who you are. And I don't want to just tell you to do something and you're not ready for that. You're not qualified for that. And I don't want to set up anybody to fail. Because I've been set up to fail before when somebody tried to give me stuff and I wasn't ready for it. That's why in our culture, rabbis, you can't even be a rabbi till you're 30 years old. That's how we know Yehoshua was 33 and a half. When he turned 30, he showed up to his cousin and got baptized. Right? There's a culture behind it. Right? Remember we talked about the unprepared pastor, Pastor Todd. And I said, you got to be empathetic. Pastor Todd is doing some stuff, but guess what? Pastor Todd, he was made a pastor when he was 15 years old. He was made a pastor from when he was what? From when he was 15 years of age, he was made a pastor. Wow. And remember, he said that they came to him. They were like, Easter's coming up. What are we going to do? And he said, I've never done an Easter service. Now, we don't celebrate Ishtar or Easter, but he said, I've never done an Easter service before, so I don't know. But he said, I don't know. Let's do a play. Or he said, I've never done an Easter sermon before. He said, I'm not going to start now. He said, let's do a play. And then you saw people having questions about the play. We even looked at the play together, and we were able to see some things that are in there. We saw some Ishtar stuff thrown in there. We saw a lot of stuff that was in there. Not just Easter. I'm talking about Ishtar stuff. We saw some stuff, let's get information. We saw some stuff that could be used as not demonic, even if he didn't intend for it to be. But guess what? I said, hey, but you got to look at the fact that some of that's not on him. Where were the people that said at 15, you shouldn't be a pastor? I met a young man who was an apostle already and was having some issues in his life. He's a great preacher. But I met a young man that was an apostle at like 17. How are you an apostle at 17? Because the way they use the term apostle, they mean that as an apostle, he's supposed to be a missionary that goes from place to place, teaches people the word, has somebody, creates a pastor, gets them in place, and is always ready, whether he can go back physically or has to send letters or text or emails or whatever. He has to always be able to go back and be ready to make sure, and therefore can be over not just that place, but the way they use the term apostle now, they mean churches all around the place. You 17 years old, bro. You don't know what you're doing. Like you can't even sign paperwork on certain things. You can't even work a certain amount of hours yet, bro. Like I joined the military at 17. I had to get my mom and my dad to get permission. And I was in the military at 17, couldn't even buy cigarettes. I mean, I was smoking cigarettes at the time for real, but couldn't buy them. Somebody else had to get them for me. Turned 18, got in trouble by age 19. I don't really drink like that. Drank too much. Ended up, waking up to a catheter being inserted, and somebody had my back. Praise Yah, that was able to lie for me and be like, "Hey, I don't know if praise Yah is the word. Let's just say somebody had my back, right?" And I didn't get kicked out the military, but basically, because I was underage drinking against the law, can't do that. And somebody said, "Oh, he doesn't have insurance." And so they treated me and they kicked me out early because they couldn't make no money off me. So I'm just trying to tell you, like we got this stuff out of order, and we're dangerous, but we're not armed with information that would make sure that we're no longer a danger to ourselves. Like we said earlier, you can be ready to supposedly be ready to go to battle, but you don't know anything about gun safety. Remember the guy who got in trouble, who I liked where his heart was at, but he went by Jam Master Jay, not the Jam Master Jay that got offed. That was part of Run DMC, but Jam Master Jay, who was the guy who was over the group that was walking around with people of our diaspora and saying that if you got a problem with us, we'll come down there and we'll be prepared to protect our people with weapons. And what happened? He got in trouble. They got him on a couple things. There were people that were walking around with him. If you're in the military, you ain't even realize there were people walking around who had their scopes on backwards. Think about that now. The scope that you're supposed to look through the fire, you got it on backwards. You don't even know what you're doing. People had actually they had gotten hit by fire, but never by fire from the enemy. They had gotten hit by friendly fire, just marching next to each other because people wouldn't know how to make sure that they had their weapons, used properly, even have a safety on. And so people were getting hit in the foot by other people. Now, how does that make us look? But also, real talk, you're a danger to society. Forget just how it makes us look. It makes us look bad, but also it makes us look terrible. Also, Jam Master Jay, the guy who was in charge of it, he would be talking to the police officers, and he would have his weapon, and like he was trying to point at him with his finger, he would go like this, and even sometimes try to go like he was going over their head. But there were people who were posted up above him, like as snipers, but these snipers were in full view to make sure that they knew that, we'll come up, we ready to fight against y'all. So when he was doing that against police officers, guess what you're doing? You're pointing your weapon at police. You're never supposed to be pointing your weapon like that, right? Even in some places, if you point your weapon up, because if you accidentally fire up, you know that a bullet, it's illegal because of a bullet. Now, some places it's not, but if a bullet goes up in the air, it's only a matter of time before it comes down. And sometimes it can come down with a very similar, if not even greater force than what it was shot up with. You see? So, and all that stuff he was doing. So then when somebody came at him, he didn't get jail time, but he had to go ahead and he had to be on house restriction. And as much as people, and now what did our people start doing? See, man, the black man was doing this. He was trying to protect blah, blah. And I get it. He was, and he's to be applauded for that. But let's be honest. He was more of a hindrance to us than he was a help. He helped at least to make sure we got it that, hey, we should be okay with forming militias ourselves. Right. But he also didn't learn how law worked. He was tender. He was unprepared. And so there's men who got shot because of him, because he didn't do something as simple as, like, maybe he knew how to, even though he should have been pointing his weapon at people, maybe he got too into himself. Who knows? But maybe he knew what he was doing with his weapon, but he dang sure should have made sure that everybody who was walking with him did. And I will never be the person to try and have you guys walk a walk and never make sure that don't know how to use your weapon. You see? So somebody says, why are you teaching every day? Or why is it taking so long? Or why does not I can't have unprepared people out here over the people. Yeah, law, safety, and procurement are elements of discipline. Can't have unprepared people. Even when we get the land, it's still going to be at least a couple years probably before we can even be safe enough to say, all right, let's actually have people, stay here for months, let alone try to live there. Because we're gonna have to grow the food, gonna have to make sure everything's all right with the soil, gonna have to make sure, like the place that we're looking at now, there's wildlife there. And there's pretty decent sized fish, which means that there's probably bigger fish. And who knows? That probably means that there might be some stuff there. So we got to figure out even how to make sure that where we're going to be, that certain life, wildlife doesn't even get to us, or do we need to gate off certain parts of that, or even make sure, do how How much wildlife do we want to stay? How many trees do we want to stay? How many things? Like there's a lot of decisions that have to be made. So even in doing that, you got to realize like this is a process. Your life is a process. Everything we do has got to be processed out. And in all that, this being said, remember that you come with a warning sign. Through all this, what we're talking about now, we're not supposed to discuss at all. Shh, quiet as kept. Right? We're not supposed to talk about stuff like this. We're not supposed to say, get your mind right, because there's a place where you can be protected. We're not supposed to say to our sisters, hey, become a wife, because where we're going to have you, you're going to be secure and protected. And if men don't treat you correctly, those men will be kicked out. We're not supposed to tell you that. Like, shh, quiet as kept. We're not supposed to say, brothers, become better husbands, because there's wives that are being made up again over and over again. This is why we have to have several platforms and several channels and do all this stuff. And if they take down one, we have to secretly say, let's go to the other one. Or when we do meetups, we can't even tell people where we're meeting up. We have to be very careful. We have to be quiet, because this is not supposed, even on this small level, we're not supposed to express that there's a possibility that you can be greater than what you are now. You're already great, but do you want greater? And if you want greater, we're supposed to treat it like it's a secret. And you know what, to be honest with you, I don't mind it being a secret somewhat, because not everybody's ready for this. How you doing, King Raj? Not everybody's ready for this type of conversation. So there are some things, like I say, people, we talk a lot of surface level on here, believe it or not. It just seems deep to us because none of it's introduced. But when we have the classes, when we have our meetups, when we have our meetings, when I have our one-on-one, people are like, oh, wow, okay, I never even thought about blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, because even some of this stuff I can't even give you. When we talked about how to make sure that people weren't taking their shots and stuff, they shut us down. You know why? Because I did nothing but just tell you law. I mentioned the code. Tell me you know what the code is named. I've already been too much. I've already dipped my toe too much today, so I'll be careful in this where it is. But I just mentioned the code to you guys, and you guys saw the code, and we started having thousands of people who were not taking the shot. And next thing you know, we got it. That was the beginning. That's the first time they shut us down. They shut us down then at that time on TikTok and YouTube. Then legally they had to let us back on. They still haven't let us on YouTube, but at least we have access to our information. Right? We had to start a whole nother YouTube channel. They shut down the Facebook channel at the same time. Now, some of that was because I didn't know necessarily how to use Facebook at the time, but they had shut down. We have a Facebook page that had reached 17,000. Now I think it's down to 15,000. We barely get any views on it. But all that happened at the same time. Right? Remember, I used to call myself the Shadow Man one. Out of respect to my wife, I don't use that as a name for myself anymore, a nickname. Right? She taught me some things about that, so I don't use it anymore. But that was on our merchandise at one point. We were trying to do merchandise to fundraise. So when you learn of who you are, remember that you're dangerous, but just don't be dangerous. Be armed and dangerous. And remember, you come with a warning sign. Just because somebody tells you that you don't come with a warning sign, you come with a warning sign. As Malcolm said, and I'll close here, and I don't mean just weapons, but he's going to be talking about physical weapons. I'm talking about arming yourself with who you are, whatever, right? But as Malcolm said, as Minister Malcolm Shabazz said, as Malcolm X taught us, when they tell you, hey, put your weapons down and all this stuff, or why are you bringing up weapons, or why are you bringing up this arsenal? Why are you trying to be better, which is how you doing? I watch things for the American community. Why are you doing this? Why? Malcolm said it like this. He said, when you stop offing my people, he said, then I'll tell my people to put down their guns. When you stop telling me that what my people think is righteous in our own culture, then I'll start telling them, hey, maybe we should, maybe we don't have to talk about this, come together on this, be careful about this, and teach these things. But I don't know if there's ever a time that you should stop teaching your culture. I just know the time's not now. That being said, thank y'all. Appreciate you for being on. Went a little longer than usual. And just coming off yesterday, so I apologize. We went long 2 days in a row, but thank you. It was an honor once again meeting the ones that we just met in person for the first time, and those we've been talking on the phone and all this stuff. We appreciate you so much. I hope that you guys have a great day. don't forget July 12th is what, 2 days from now, right? Isn't today July 10th? So that's Wednesday. That's when we're looking at the halfway point for September 12th. If for some reason, and please, if you can, I'm going to put out something in a little bit to say these are the people who've actually given and donated and everything. If you have, and for some reason your name's not on the list, please double check with us so we can make sure that we check out our records, our financial records, and make sure that we have that. But July 12th is Wednesday. That's when we're asking for half of whatever donation that you're giving. If you're going to give the rest of the donation, whatever half of your donation is, we're asking for the full thing by August 12th. And if you need help, we do have people who have donated to help. So once again, if you need help, right, just be honest with us and be honest with yourself. If you need help, right, we can try to set something up and at least maybe even take some of the costs off, if not all of the costs. Okay. But we thank you all. We appreciate you. Feast of Tabernacles, September 29th through October the 6th. If whichever amount of days you're going to join with us, let us know so we can get that stuff in order. I think that's all we have. Yeah. So thank you for being on. We appreciate you. I'll be on later this evening. I'm going to try my best to I'm going to come on a little early because I have a marital coaching that's going to be at 9:15 Eastern New York time today. So I might be on about 7 or so, but maybe be on Patreon / do the original Kofi _40. We'll record it for Patreon members. And then at 8, we'll come back. We'll come on the live session on Kofi _42. We'll be on YouTube for the live session this evening. But thank you guys for being on. We appreciate you. Ministerial staff, I'm going to try to reach out to you because I still haven't made sure that I've given you guys assignments or seeing what dates you guys are available for some preaching and teaching. I will say to all of our ministerial staff, we might even have some guests on that are sisters, but at least to all of our ministerial staff who can go live on TikTok, we might even try to see if some of you might even be able to join on YouTube. But to all of our ministerial staff who are our sisters, well, let me do it like this. Our brothers, I think we're going to try to see if you can come on live with us. We're going to do something special on Thursday evening at 8. So I'm going to try and invite some brothers to be on at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time and have some conversation then. And then for our sisters, we're going to try and do something at 8 p.m. on Friday. So I'm going to reach out to you all, especially the ministerial staff first, and then maybe to some people who we know of, who we partner with. But we're going to try and do something for you guys and come on together on Thursday evening for the brothers, Friday evening for the sisters. Everybody can still come on. I'm just saying the people that will be guests on there to talk about some things and have some conversation. All right. So we thank you all. We appreciate you. We honor you. We look forward to talking to you very soon. And thank you guys again. We appreciate you all. And you guys stay safe out there. Let's see. Yeah, that's all I have for today. So thank you. We appreciate you. We'll see you later this evening. Patreon members, or even if you follow on Kofi _40, we'll be on later on. We'll record it for Patreon members only, though. We'll probably do that about 6:45-ish. Actually, ooh, wow. I just realized I have Kung Fu class today at 7. But you know what? I'll just have to watch a recording of it. I'll just have to apologize. So we'll be on at 7. On Kofi _40, it'll be recorded on Patreon, and we'll be on at 8, Kofi _42 and YouTube, and that'll be at 8 till about 9:10, and then I got a marital coaching session on this evening. All right, so thank you all. We appreciate you, and be aware as well. Please keep our ministers in training in prayer. Please keep Sister Austral in prayer, Minister Shantae in prayer, Sister Toya in prayer, Minister Moselle in prayer. I know all of us need prayer, of course. Please keep the land project in prayer as it's prayerfully getting closer to the end, if it's not at the end. Praise Yah. Please keep my family in prayer. And I pray not only for my family, but even against us, that any unclean spirits that are trying to be deceptive and be your friends, but are really not, we pray once again, woe unto these spirits, woe unto these Pharisees, woe unto these shepherds who are eating the sheep and not feeding the sheep. All right. So thank you all. We appreciate you. We honor you. We'll see you later on. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And as always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, just that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom. Also, it's so those of us who are still on with us on TikTok, real quick, we're gonna do our shout out. If you